And now the Senate is really getting a taste of these divisions that the lower chamber has faced this Congress.
Wow, cool. Okay, good luck.
Hello and welcome to Decoding the Gurus, the podcast where an anthropologist and a psychologist listen to the greatest minds the world has to offer, and we try to understand what they're talking about. I'm Matt Brown, a psychologist from Australia. With me is Chris Kavanagh, the anthropologist from Japan, formerly Belfast. G'day, Chris. We've got a big decoding coming up today, don't we? Our white whale.
A white whale. We have so many white whales that they're becoming relatively common these days.
Many fish in the sea. Is that what you're saying? Many fish. We just need to dangle our little hook in there and up they come.
Yeah, there are people that it feels like we should have covered earlier, and Destiny might fit in that category, but...
Wait, where did they say they were from? One guy's from Australia and the other guy's from where?
But there's a lot of people, Matt. That's the thing. There's a lot of people in this world. There's a lot of people. Many people. Some of the best people.
Yeah.
Belfast.
Yeah.
So just to remind people, for those perhaps Destiny fans that are tuning in for the first time, remember, on Decoding the Gurus, we decode online public figures, intellectuals, influencers, people with a big public profile. Just because you're covered on Decoding the Gurus doesn't mean that you're evil. It's not a flat category of bad people. We've covered Carl Sagan. We certainly call him a secular guru.
Covered Sean Carroll.
Sean Carroll. Good. We love Sean Carroll. He scored 0 on the Garometer.
You love Sean Carroll.
They have a Garometer. Oh, no.
Yeah. So it remains to be seen. But look, there's so much to talk about with Destiny. And Destiny is a streamer, Chris.
He is a streamer.
Now, many people in our audience are boomers like me and don't really understand what's the deal with streaming. Who are they? What do they do?
Streamers.
America deserved 9/11, dude. Fuck it. I'm saying it.
Academics.
Can I make a comment about canceling culture?
Streamers.
Yeah, please explain this to me so I can tell you how fucking stupid you are.
Academics.
Yes.
And when I'm talking about that anagogic in and out of the imaginal augmentation of our ontological depth perception, that's what I mean by imaginal faithfulness.
Now that's an intellectual. Who is that?
Provide some interesting lessons for us today.
Decoding the Gurus, Streamers, and Academics season.
This is going to be really interesting.
Yeah, well, one thing, Matt, just to say, you might be optimistic that a significant amount of
I should rip that intro for Bridges. True.
Destiny's audience will listen to a podcast because I know some amount of them will, but I feel that without the visual that it's not so appealing. But in any case,
no one's playing a computer game at the moment, so that will confuse them.
Yeah, that's it. Although, well, even there's things to be said there, Matt. Destiny has discovered Adderall and is less prone to using computer games now to stimulate himself on his streams. But there we go. So, yeah, for those who are unaware of this entire phenomenon of streamers or just like vaguely familiar with it, so it's what it sounds like. People who stream content, and obviously that has become more common and easier to do as internet speeds and whatnot have increased. But Destiny was doing it a long time ago. He was one of the first streamers, and he streamed originally on a platform called Justin TV, which is now Twitch streaming. And at that time, he was streaming a game called StarCraft 2. And so basically what these are people streaming their video while there's like a little chat box and people can comment and interact. But it's now not just video games. There are channels which are just dedicated to politics, to commentating on news. There are channels where people are streaming IRL in real life, where they go out to locations and interact with people, or people are doing variety streams. There's all sorts of, there's hot tub streamers, people in bikinis streaming. There's all different types of things. But what tends to mark them out, I think, from the stuff that maybe more mainstream or older, more mainstream people would consume, is that streamers tend to stream for significant portions of time, multiple hours, and they interact with the chat as they're doing other stuff. So it's kind of a multitasking achievement in a way, because like they're playing a game, they're reading streams and reacting to it. And now increasingly other people will call in and they'll have a discussion with them. But Destiny was doing the gaming side of that and then moved into politics, political commentary, often while playing video games. So if you watched many of his streams, you will see that he depends on the venue and how serious he is. But in any case, he is often streaming video games while he's talking or debating with other people. So yeah, it's kind of content for the ADHD generation. And he also deserves credit for not just being a pioneer in like streaming video game content, but also in politics streaming. He was, I think, if not the person responsible for creating that space, at least a very significant figure in its emergence. So now there are many political streamers, and we covered one of them recently, Hassan, but Destiny was a pioneer in that area. So
now I think you told me that Hassan Piker as well as Vosh both got their start. They started off as fans or something interacting with
Yeah, they were fans,
yeah,
true.
Vosh came out of Destiny's audience, and Hassan Piker was in his audience, but Hassan Piker came up from the Young Turks.
Close
so
enough.
He started out in the Young Turks because his uncle is Cenk Uygur, right? But as he branched out from the Young Turks, he got involved with Destiny's community and was doing, collaborations and whatnot and appearing on Destiny stream. So he had a profile before he was in Destiny's community. But yes, there was a lot of overlap. They were on the same team in various debates. They were discussing issues. So yeah, there's a lot of big name left-wing political streamers that have emerged from Destiny's community or had significant contact with it. That might be the way to put it.
Yeah, so Hassan and Destiny, very different political views and certainly not fans of each other at the moment. Nevertheless, they are similar in the sense that they are these political streamers, I guess primarily these days, commentators. They play computer games, yes, sometimes, but they also talk to politics, have debates, and are commentators on basically everything. So I guess that's what puts them into our remit. That's why they're in our ballpark, Chris.
Well, I think we can see how much of the guru dynamics apply, but streamers and influencers are probably the leading front in parasocial dynamics, and manipulation might be a bad way to put it, but there's a lot of audience interaction, there's a lot of blurring of boundaries that isn't there in traditional media as much. And yeah, so that I think there are reasons that you could see the kind of dynamics that we see with secular gurus at play in that arena. And you definitely do see people voicing opinions across a whole bunch of different topics and offering hot takes and that. So, I think that it depends on the character, but there are people with extreme positions. There are people who have no political takes, right? They're just there to offer, entertainment. And there are people with their own weirdo bespoke philosophies and there's a lot of weirdos that are involved with Destiny or orbiting around Destiny, and weirdos might sound disparaging, but I'm sorry, I've been consuming a lot of Destiny's content and there are a lot of unhinged strange people that he interacts with. And when I say that might sound disparaging, but I mean people who have released supposedly artistic videos of them masturbating under their own volition to the internet, and just a lot of talk about people threatening suicide or have they advocated for pedophilia. We played the clip about Vosh and his horsecock lolicon fetish or whatever, but the point is that's actually relatively mild by most of the standards. So as we'll see, so there's just a lot of unhinged degeneracy going on, and including
no judgment, Chris, no judgment, but it is unhinged degeneracy.
No judgment, but there's Nazis and shit, and as we'll see, and it's a lot of it is, to my mind, needlessly dramatic and just attention seeking, or 20 somethings talking about their political philosophies, which they developed last week, and I don't care. Okay. So,
well, we'll get into the clips in a moment, I guess, but just final thoughts from me about just the general context of this streamer sphere is one, I guess there are those different angles to it. One, it's just mild entertainment, something computer game and just talking as they do it. On the other hand, you've got all of the political commentary, social commentary, debating issues that is going on, so that's another angle. But like you say, at the same time, there is those blurring of boundaries between the community and the people broadcasting, and there's a lot of interactions, a lot of the personal life overlaps a fair bit. And I don't know if it's fair to say, would you agree that I had the feeling that aspect of it is a little bit like reality TV, but for the next generation, it is a bit like the dramas that go on Love Island or something.
It can be. There's a lot of drama. There's a lot of people having sex with various people that they're making content with, or falling out and bridges being burned. There's a specific nomenclature with Destiny about the bridges burning or bridges being mended, feuding with different people and stuff. But it's not just Destiny that does this. It's kind of the whole streamer ecosystem. Yeah, and I think it's partly because of the nature of the content means that one thing which people like to do is reaction videos, you know, like playing someone else's content and commenting on it. And I think by the
That's what we do, Chris. That's what we do.
Yeah, well, we do it about the video, so it doesn't. That's the thing, you know. There's a difference to it. One, when you do it every day, and two, like audio podcasts are in a different category of things. But there's podcast drama as well, right? The Daily Wire is currently having drama with Candace Owens and Ben Shapiro. So like this happens in pundit world, but just as we'll see, the drama is like of a slightly different timbre whenever it's in streamer land. And one thing I'll also say, I've listened to an insane amount of content for this episode. Like I often listen to a lot of content for the people that we cover, but with Destiny, I've listened to a lot. Maybe even by his...
You went above and beyond this time, Chris.
I did. Like, it could have been over 100 hours of stuff that I've listened to, but in any case, the outcome of that is one thing I'm very acutely aware of, is that Destiny, you know, a bit like everyone, but in his case, perhaps more extreme than in others. He has different presentations depending on the venue that he's in and the audience that he's speaking to. And he's quite open about this. We'll see that he makes this clear himself. But it means that if you took some of his content from like a mainstream interview, because he's increasingly being interviewed by Piers Morgan or appeared with Ben Shapiro or, you know, kind of high-profile media or whatever, like the mainstream media, he's often on his best behavior. And he comes across extremely reasonable, doesn't use edgy terms or whatever, and kind of presents in a particular way. When he's on the stream, again, it's different, and it depends who he's talking to. You know, if he's talking friendly with someone, he'll be different if he's interacting with the stream. If he is debating on, you know, like a panel with Alex Jones or with red-pilled people, yeah, it's different as well. So the reason I mention this is that the content that we select could give quite different perspectives. Like if we only took some of his recent interviews from mainstream media, and we are going to cover a bunch of the stuff there, you would get a different perspective than if we covered his streaming content with like a red pill Nick Fuentes character, or, you know, some drama stream about him debating with various orbiters. So that means that in order to properly contextualize him, it feels that we need to cover a broad spectrum of stuff. So on the show, we are often focusing like on a single piece of content or two pieces of content. And that is what we are doing today. We're taking a piece of content which was focused more towards the streaming audience, and then a piece of content which was focused towards like a more mainstream audience. But I also have a bunch of other clips which will provide contextual information. And I think it's important to go through them because it, like any single one, I think, could give like a misleading presentation on its own.
Yeah, definitely. He's multifaceted, produced a huge amount of content, so it presents a bit of a challenge for our usual methodology. So yeah, I mean, this will work, but just to remind people that...
Remember, anything that gets posted to me from Twitter or anything like that, those are deep fakes, okay? Deep fakes.
What we try not to do is to go digging and cherry picking and finding like the worst things that someone has said and just relying on that. And likewise, going in the other direction, just finding good stuff. In general, with someone like Jordan Peterson, say, or Eric Weinstein, you can pick a random piece of content and it will be pretty representative of who they are. I think this could be somewhat true of Destiny, but like you said, he's a multifaceted character. He's been doing this for a long time, produced untold hours of content, and the content is very different depending on the context. So we're going to, try to be fair about it.
Yeah, but like with Fast and Packer, there's a couple of clips which are infamous and that are part of the reason that...
Does someone piss you off when people are pretending to be on the higher moral ground? I mean, it depends on what you're talking about. Just being on a higher moral ground isn't necessarily bad. If somebody's like, for instance, like religious, and they are critiquing me from a religious perspective, then I mean, they would be on a bigger moral ground from their perspective. That would make sense. If people are being hypocrites, that's irritating. Or if people are talking from a moral ground that they don't themselves like try to exhibit, or if they make excuses for other people, then that gets annoying. Or if they're factually incorrect about things they're talking about me, sure, right?
You know, there's controversy or whatever. And the most recent one, I'll just play here. This is Destiny talking about Gaza, and this is from before the October 7th attacks. So this is on the...
Remember, this is a deep fake,
guys. Stream things that people are playing
spread
games.
the word.
Or Destiny at least is playing a game, or somebody else. I don't know. Anyway, listen to this.
Honestly, I'm pro-genocide. Like, it sounds really shitty, but like, I think that Israel should just drop its fucking borders about where it is now, and basically Palestinians can go live in another place. That's really shitty, but like, that's about where I'm at.
You just think the Palestinians should just pack up and Native American the fuck out of there?
I feel like Hamas watched my stream and they spited me. They were like, this guy said this on a month ago. We're gonna do some wild shit, and then this guy's gonna get Omega ass blasted for this clip. Let's fucking go, boys. Let's fucking go.
The problem is that it seems like there is a hugely general hostility to Jewish people.
Oh, holy shit. Oh, usually the clip just cuts off there. They actually include the rest of it. Thank you. Sorry.
In another place. That's really shitty, but like that's about where I'm at.
Do you just think the Palestine should just pack up and Native American the fuck out of there?
The problem is that it seems like there is a hugely general hostility to Jewish people across really the entire world, definitely the Middle East. So the problem is that as you weaken Israel's like ability for Jewish people to live there, it seems like there is because there's a lot of different organizations across the Middle East that are highly invested in the destruction of Israel. So that's like a really rough thing too. So it seems like if Israel is forced to make concessions to Palestinians, it threatens Jewish people's ability to have a homeland. And so I don't know. It's really shit. Truthfully, the answer is like there's no good answer. It's hard. It's hard. It's a really, really complicated situation.
Oh, wow. The entire answer. Wait, are you saying that Destiny wasn't just saying we should murder every fucking Palestinian? Why did Wes ask you this? I don't know. I don't even know what the fuck we were doing. He was just randomly in Discord and he asked me this question one day. I don't think there was anything in the news about fucking Israel. I have no fucking idea why he brought this up. Maybe he was the one maybe he has contacts with Hamas. Was there? It was Kick or Keep? No, I think it might have been, it was like after Kick or Keep or something. Why did you even say this even at the time? Because this is what most people would give as like a joke answer. Like, how does Israel-Palestine end? Like, when one side kills each other. I think Jimmy Carter was quoted as saying that the Pope told him that there were two ways for Israel-Palestine to be solved. There was either the realistic solution, which is where God comes down from the heaven and through miracle makes it work. And then there was the miraculous, where the Palestinians and the Israelis actually agree on peace with each other. That's a Jimmy Carter quote from the Pope. So, I mean, like, this has basically been the position for, like, fucking, I don't know, 50 years since Egypt, right? Like, this has been the position that this situation is, like, intractable. Like, should it be genocide? Obviously not. But, I mean, like, I say as much here, right? Yeah. Jimmy Carter said the Pope said. The reason why I'm saying Jimmy Carter said the Pope said is because I saw that quote that the Pope said it, but I never actually found that quote from the Pope. I think I just found Jimmy Carter talking about that quote. So I'm not actually sure if the Pope said it. So I'm just quoting it as I found it, okay? Jimmy Carter, Pope, quote, miraculous, realistic, Israel. Hold on. I think it was in this speech. I might warn you in advance that this is not a simple subject. Pope John Paul II once declared that there are two possible solutions to the Palestine-Israel conflict. One is realistic and the other one is miraculous. The realistic one involves divine intervention from heaven. The miraculous one will be a voluntary agreement between the Israelis and the Palestinians. Supposedly this is a quote from Pope John Paul II. I couldn't find the source of this quote though, so that's why I'm quoting Carter, quoting the Pope. Okay, fuck you. Carter, if you want to come on my stream and talk about it, you do not have to prove your research for a joke you made. Well, somebody, fuck you.
It seems like appeasing either end basically means like kind of the destruction of the other end. If you give Jewish people what they want, Palestinians are essentially permanently cocked out of what they feel is their rightful homeland. And if you give Palestinians what they want, then probably a lot of Jewish people are going to die.
So, you know, saying that you're pro-genocide, never a good look, never a good look. And people have focused on this bit because Destiny has since gone on to become quite active in debating and discussing the conflict in Gaza. But to me, this clip illustrates the tendency towards edgy comments because the subsequent discussion, like, is relatively not so extreme, right? He's just saying that these are two incompatible solutions and there would be issues, but it doesn't undo that you just said, like, I'm pro-genocide. That's the reason that this clip got kind of shared around everyone, and a lot of Destiny fans were saying, well, this is out of context. But the point is, find me the clip of you or I or various other people saying we're pro-genocide, right? You won't find it because, we're not going to say it's shit.
Yeah, it's part of the issue, though, Chris, that like we don't record 12 hours a day, day in, day out, free associating. Like, for instance, I watched different content from you, from Destiny, just random Destiny content. One thing I watched recently was him interviewing another influencer type guy. His name's Ryan Macbeth. He's okay. He's kind of like a mid-tier like military guy, comments on military things, and he actually gets a bit drunk during that interview. Doesn't acquit himself that well. I've seen other stuff from him where he's better. But in that interview, Destiny, he basically does he's like an NBC anchor, basically. He's asking reasonably good questions. You don't hear anything controversial in the hours that he talks to this guy. So, yeah, I don't know.
And which interview are they talking about?
His name's Ryan Macbeth. He's like,
while I was talking to Ryan Macbeth. Okay.
He basically does he's like an NBC anchor, basically. He's asking reasonably good questions. You don't hear anything controversial in the hours that he talks to this guy. So, yeah, I don't know.
Well, yeah, and I'll just highlight a clip which is kind of contradicting of the image that he's purely an apologist for the IDF. So recently there was an attack where the IDF blew up some aid convoy. I can't remember the organization exactly, but anyway, it was a humanitarian convoy, and it was targeted by the IDF, right? And the IDF gave an explanation for it, and Destiny has been very strongly pro-Israel throughout the conflict, but he covered the statement, and here's a clip of him talking about that.
That idea of like, oh, it's a chaotic environment coming from FC.
Oh my God, I'm gonna fucking splooge. You know what would be even better than this? You know what would be even better than this? Okay, because I understand, because it sounds like, so people have a view of what I say because they clip the most retarded fucking shit. These guys are probably gonna have more context, so it's not gonna sound as unhinged. It would be interesting to see somebody that super disagrees with me that clips this stuff and then disagrees with me on the merits of what I'm actually saying instead of like, instead of just like the wild unhinged shit. Because I'm only going up because I heard that apparently these guys are pretty agreeable to most of what I say, but
targeted by the IDF, right? And the IDF gave an explanation for it, and Destiny has been very strongly pro-Israel throughout the conflict, but he covered the statement, and here's a clip of him talking about that.
That idea of like, oh, it's a chaotic environment coming from F-16s or whatever the planes they fly to bomb. This was not like like the hostage situation where the 3 hostages were shot. That was a chaotic moment, and I'm way more sympathetic towards that in that moment. For this targeted airstrike for people that you had intel on ahead of time on a pre-approved humanitarian aid route, shooting convoy vehicles, no, that excuse doesn't work there. That doesn't cut it. Do you think that they thought a Hamas member was on board? Again, even if a Hamas member was on board, that can't be the calculation. We're gonna go ahead and blow up 3 humanitarian aid vehicles with 6, I need to get the number right, 6 or 9 foreign nationals.
It's not what you say, it's how you say it. You're dead wrong. You're super fucking wrong. You're 1 billion% fucking wrong. It's not what I say or how I say it, it's how I'm clipped. It's a ridiculous standard to live up to, okay?
On it because a Hamas member is on board. That can't be the calculation. It's too much. Even if there was a Hamas member on board, the entire world, and probably even Israel, is not accepting that. Like the population won't accept that proportionality. That's unhinged. You can't do that unless it's literally like King Hamas himself. You can't. There's no way you can do that. That's insane.
Like I don't think anybody listens to this. How many people came away saying, even in my own fucking subreddit, how many people came away saying like, oh, I supported the Israeli strikes on the aid vehicles? I think if you listen to my full commentary, you don't ever walk away with that opinion. There's no shot. The only way you can do that is if you've got a 20-second clip from somebody that fucking hates me. Like.
Yeah, so there he's sounding, if you didn't know anything about Destiny, then you could well assume that the person speaking there was very much a critic of Israel, perhaps even pro-Palestinian. Yeah, I think that's an interesting distinction. I mean, we've spoken to people recently, Chris, who are very much pro-Israel on this issue.
Oh, and, Sam Harris.
Yeah. I was being delicate.
You're being arch.
Yeah. But not even referring to Sam Harris in particular, but just looking at the discourse, it does seem like a lot of people are firmly in one camp or firmly in the other camp. And one thing you see almost ubiquitously is that they will minimize or make excuses for or.
I agree, but they are right that Shapiro won't get caught saying I am pro-genocide. Shapiro is live for 1.5 hours every 2 days. The amount of live content that we both do is dramatically different, number one. Number two, even Shapiro has tweeted and said dumb things. I'm pretty sure he's still haunted by that Jews build cities and Arabs just build trash. I'm pretty sure he's still haunted by that tweet from like 2008. Also, I would wager, I submit that I think Hassan has said worse things than me, okay? The America deserved 9/11 comment, that was a wild comment, all right? Fuck you, all right? Except for when I call that one Korean American player. That's a deepfake AI, don't believe that. Also, I think the totality of what I said is not even close to as abhorrent and disgusting as the crazy shit that people have said about October 7th as well. That shit has been fucking wild, all right?
Change the topic or whatever on anything that sort of makes the one side look bad. So I think perhaps one thing with Destiny is that he seems to dive in, is quite happy to punch in both directions.
Yeah, although I think people would argue that he does engage in some apologetics for Israeli actions. It all depends on how you judge what is actually going on there and how.
Also, for as bad as or as fucked up as I've said some things or media appearances or whatever the fuck, I will never have an interview. I hope to God not. I will never have an interview as crushing as when Ben did the Ben Shapiro British interview. Oh God, who was this? The Andrew Neil one? Okay, I won't have an interview like this. Pray to God, please. Please, Lord, don't let it happen. Oh God.
Bunch of trust statements from different sources. But on that same stream, Matt, so we heard Hassan interacting with his audience and getting annoyed with them, right, whenever they were challenging his position. This does sound a little bit similar at points to when Destiny gets annoyed with his audience. So listen, this is from the same stream.
We shouldn't want the war to stop. You should want the elimination of Hamas. You should, if you want anything less than Hamas being removed as the administrator to the Gazan region, you're a pedophile who's jerking off to dying Palestinians because you think it supports whatever perverted political narrative that you have for hating America.
Yes, you are, and I stand by it. You want to see it because the only way you can see the insides of children online is by seeing their exploded bodies. You are a secret pedophile, and welcome to my decoding. I did get you on that. You are. You are.
That's literally it. There is no other rational basis. Or you're anti-Semitic, you hate Jews, I guess. Or maybe you're crazy Muslim or whatever. Or super anti-Semitic and you, for whatever, some other reason, you can be Christian, be a Nazi, I guess, right? That's the only, there's no other option there. If you support Hamas remaining as the administrator here, it's because you are dropping fat loads of thick cum, okay, all over your fucking carpet at night, watching Palestinians die. But it gives you something to tweet about every night.
Now, that...
Thick loads. Absolutely thick loads. Yes. Fuck, how do I go back without, I don't need to go back through all of that.
It's what we might refer to as loaded rhetoric. Like in this case, it's very loaded, right? And I think also that clip highlights that that's not the kind of commentary that you're going to hear from Ben Shapiro or Jordan Peterson or whatever, right? They're not going to be talking about people spunking fat loads on their carpet over dead infants, right? So
thick loads.
Destiny doesn't mind engaging in that like really heated,
loaded rhetoric. I saw what you did there, my dude. Loaded rhetoric. It is.
Dismissal if he feels like it's justified. So like in that case, he's basically arguing there's no principled position that can lead to supporting Hamas remaining in power, and then essentially characterizing anybody that would argue that as being a pedophile, somebody that masturbates over dead children or whatever. But it's for a rhetorical effect. But like, yeah, that is illustrative of like interacting with the audience in a very harsh way and characterizing positions which differ as completely amoral. Like I don't think that's steel manning the counter position.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you're talking about Hamas, the organization, perhaps as opposed
to... Well, sure. Look, I can do a better job of it. I'm no fan of Hamas, right? But like, I can see that people could argue that removing Hamas will lead to a political vacuum, which will actually just empower more extremists and lead to worse outcomes for Israel. And that didn't require me jacking off to dead children or being an anti-American, ideologue. So that's what I mean. You can take him as simply arguing against the worst version of the kind of tanky left, which is who I think he's aimed at. But the rhetoric is very strong.
The rhetoric is colorful. I sound like I'm making excuses here, but I used to play a game called Subspace back in the day. It was one of the very first multiplayer games where you could actually type and text other players, and there would be maybe 100, 200 people playing. And the culture in that game, in terms of the absolutely disgusting language that everybody used, I think we'll mainly play. And in fact, I found myself, and my brother too, we would just find ourselves participating in it in the same kind of thing. Like it was all ironic and tongue-in-cheek and all that stuff. But at some point I just stopped and went, hang on, probably the people I'm playing with are like 14 years old or something. What am I doing?
Yeah.
But I guess my point is that internet subcultures have
edgy lingo.
Yeah.
And being edgy is a component of it. It is absolutely the case. But this is a point, like, Destiny's not going to drop that kind of language on his interview with Jordan Peterson. But on the stream, he will. And just one more clip about kind of chastising the audience, the highlight streamer dynamics.
The difference is that we aren't providing military support to Hamas. Yes, you are, you fucking retard. What are you talking about? The Gaza Strip gets more humanitarian aid than any other region of the fucking world per capita. What do you mean you're providing support for them? How do you think the leaders get fucking rich? By reselling a whole bunch of shit that goes into the country. Why do you think these people are in Qatar in $20,000 private plane jets, in $1,000? What do you mean you're not providing any money to Hamas? You're retarded. Just because only certain types of supplies go in there doesn't mean you're not funding the military that's doing what they're doing. How do you think they have the money to build all the tunnels? How do you think they have the money to get all the guns? What are you talking about? Like, Jesus. I said military support. I'm going to permaban you so you get all the time in the world. I want you to go online and Google fungibility of money. Go look it up. Be a smarter person for it. I'll see you in 5 years. Good luck.
Yeah, so I think the reason you're playing these clips is
fungibility money is important, okay? That is an important that was educational, okay? I was even educational in that clip. I went above and beyond. All right? I went above and beyond there.
It's not so much about the topic at hand, but rather to illustrate, I guess, the dynamic that at least sometimes exists.
The point is not to say that's the normal interaction. It isn't. But just like the Seymour Hassan is not always going off on a huge rant at his audience, like that you're all fucking fascists, right? Like that doesn't happen all the time. But this kind of thing does happen. And there again, I understand the frustration because like what Destiny was talking about on that stream was he's arguing against people essentially presenting Israel as they would...
Wait, I should hire these guys as my fucking clippers, true. Why don't I have these as clips or shorts?
Intentionally want to blow up aid trucks knowing that they're aid trucks because they're, like an evil government that just wants Palestinian people to starve and die. So like they don't even care that's an aid truck. And he's saying that's a stupid position because it's counterproductive in so many ways. Even if they wanted that, targeting aid trucks is going to get them just in trouble from international, as you saw what happened right in the backlash to that. So he's reacting to that, but in so doing, it felt to me like the person commenting there was trying to say, right, but the West is supporting Israel financially and militarily, and then Disney deflects that onto but Gaza is receiving it. But Gaza is receiving, yes, it does receive aid from international sources, but a lot of its stuff comes from Iran and various things. So I think the person commenting has a more valid argument than Destiny presents it as. And then he kind of like, it is engaging in rhetoric a bit to be like, look how rich the people are, so you don't think they're getting any money. And it's like, well, that's not the exact argument, right? Surely the argument is that we militarily support Israel directly, so we're more culpable.
Yeah,
the US, this is.
That's right. This is why Israel has F-35s and Hamas does not. I take your point. That the point that the person in the audience was making, it was almost certainly a more reasonable one than the one that Destiny demolished. And
to be fair, I have talked about these other points as well. The real answer to this question is, even if the US didn't support Israel, your position wouldn't change on it at all. Not these people. But if you're somebody that hates Israel and then you hide behind that, oh, well, it's because the US supports them. Oh, so wait, didn't we see a clip of somebody asking this exact question? I feel like we did. If Israel stopped supporting, or if the US stopped supporting Israel militarily, then you wouldn't care about the issue anymore? Well,
it was a 5-year ban, right? This is one of the things that can happen, right? Like, because, little chat box or whatever is going, and then you say, right, I'm kicking you out, off you go. And you do that to one person, you can get annoyed or whatever, but you are conditioning your audience about what will happen. And like, that's part of the dynamics that end up in these communities. And I think Destiny is very tolerant in a lot of ways of pushback, but essentially gets intolerant about certain subjects eventually, right? Like, gets fed up and is like, I want anybody that will make this kind of stupid argument out of the community.
Oh, true. I think the 16-year-old asked Hassan that, but I think Hassan pivoted. He didn't answer that. He responded to a different part of the question, and then that other thing didn't come up again. I believe I remember this happening now.
Right.
Yeah. Do you think this can happen, Chris? This is a genuine question. We talk about cultish dynamics and the somewhat unhealthy social dynamics that can happen between gurus and their audience, but I can also see how that kind of behavior on the part of Destiny, one could fall into it easily. It's the 6th hour of your stream. You're scanning hundreds of text messages and you lose your shit, and it becomes a habit.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely a kind of component, and it's necessary, even in some respect, if you become a popular streamer, because otherwise, you're just going to be dealing with hassle constantly. So you have to have moderators, you have to have like ground rules and red lines and all that kind of thing. And I think in the same way that like a lot of people start out on Twitter or other social media being like, I'm never going to ban anyone, I'm not going to mute anyone, I'm going to be very nice. And then like after a number of years, people are just like, right, block for minor infractions, right? Because they're just fed up. Or if their audience gets bigger, they just negative comment, right, gone. And I don't mean to say that Destiny is unique in this. I do think it's a component of streamer platforms when you're big, but just maybe all social media platforms where you're engaging with your audience. But, we've played examples of Hassan, chastising his audience. So it only feels fair to show that it's not like Destiny never does that, even if you think he's justified in some case. So there's that. I don't know what position that would actually give in terms of like where Destiny's politics lie. But there is a famous clip of him, and this is also, I feel a little bit unfair, so I apologize that these clips are covered at the start, but this is a famous clip of Destiny complaining about how he needs to modulate himself when dealing with right-wing conservative people.
Oh, no.
Right? So it's the same thing about the audience dynamic, but going in a different direction. So it's like a kind of famous clip. I don't know the original stream it's from, but listen to this.
Destiny, you have all the talking points, but none of the substance. Trump is the physical manifestation of the Republicans' frustration with the left. But go ahead and set up another Democrat to deplatform people even further so that an even worse Republican can come out of the ashes fight against the left retard. Here's my problem, not racy, okay? I have an ungodly amount of patience, okay? I have an ungodly amount of patience. What you don't see is that every single fucking day on my stream, 10% of my brain has to go towards being an intelligent and smart individual that is equipping himself with facts and data to have intelligent and reasonable conversations about topics, and 90% of my brain goes towards trying to understand how you all became such triggered, remedial fucking snowflakes so that I can navigate a conversation gently enough with you to not set your fucking brain off so that you're incapable of hearing what anybody else has to say. That's what I spend most of my time on. That's what I spend most of my time thinking about. You understand? It's like herding a fucking group of kindergartners and trying to figure out what I can say to you so that it doesn't set you the fuck off. Because what I really want to say, when we talk about things like, hey, this is how I have to have a conversation about hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin with fucking remedial dipshits like you. This is what I have to say. I understand. Fauci and the CDC, they did get some things wrong. And it's really bullshit that like some of the media, they have like a bias. And I totally understand why you can have like a mistrust in government when they act in the ways that they do, when they act kind of smug, when a lot of the politicians and the media seem to be on the same page. I understand the frustration there. And then when you've got other figures like Joe Rogan who are willing to platform voices that are unpopular, platform voices that don't get voiced as much, opinions don't get voiced as much. When you hear these people talk, you have this inclination to trust them a little bit more because they will. I don't believe any of that. I hate that. I hate that. I hate doing that. Every fucking day I come on screen. What I really want to say is, oh, you think these are good drugs? Let's look at the studies. Oh, you're fucking retarded. That's it. You don't have RCTs. You don't have prospective RCTs to support ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine. You're a fucking moron. You know what you are? You're so triggered by a 92-year-old fucking lintic Fauci going up on TV talking that you're about to eat any fucking pill that a fucking meathead like Joe Rogan will tell you to eat. That's what I really want to say to you. But I can't say that. I have to communicate to you like you're a triggered fucking 5-year-old. You know how frustrating that is? Every fucking day I come on stream and I talk to you, I have to figure out what is the nicest fucking way I can communicate to you so your brain will function at the 10% capacity it's capable of just to understand the fucking things that I'm telling you. It is so fucking frustrating. Holy shit. I understand why Trump is popular. It's because you're triggered. Admit it, but you won't even admit that. The reality is that you're fucking triggered that a couple people on TV get a few things wrong sometimes, and then some other smug dipshit progressives who are smug and who are dipshits act like smug dipshits, that you want to go as far off in the other direction as possible. And then I have to find a way to rope you back in. Like I'm a fucking... Fuck, I hate it. I hate having to... It is so irritating that I have to spend so much of my brain to be a gentle remedial rancher, that I've got to go out into the fields and I've got to figure the gentlest way out to talk to you. Otherwise you're going to get so triggered, you're going to vote for a man that wants to torch U.S. democracy. Okay? Jesus fucking Christ. Okay. Back to rhetorical mode. Back to effective mode.
I have to say,
Jesus
I really
Christ.
enjoyed that. And I've got so much sympathy for him, because I think that really illustrates a lot of what he is trying to engage in and doing, but also the genuine frustration, right? That he didn't let slip. He intentionally expressed it. But everything he said there, I have huge sympathy for him, and he's right in everything, right? But it also speaks to the fact that he finds it extremely frustrating that he has to be so careful around right-wing people in order not to, make them scurry away. So yeah, that's...
Yeah, that was very enjoyable. A good demonstration of his rhetorical skills, apart from being, I think, totally right in being frustrated about that particular thing. Just remind me never to debate Destiny. Not that that's ever going to happen in this world. But
yeah. I mean, he uses, there as well, you hear him say retard and stuff like that, right, as well. But again, I think that's just part of that whole culture there, that you're just using edgy language to make the point. But it's not, and even in the case here, I don't feel like this is like Red Scare, where with Red Scare I feel that they are constantly smirking to themselves that they're saying retard or whatever. But like with Destiny, it feels more like, no, that's just the way he communicates, and whenever he's talking about, and for good or bad, you can regard that as like, but he is not intending it as like, I think it's not as performative. It's more a genuine component of gamer streamer culture, right?
Yeah, and a genuine expression of emotion that he was talking to there. Well, look, he's definitely, I'm going to call it right now, we're early in, it's early days, but he's definitely a lot smarter, frankly, than Red Scare, or Hassan for that matter.
Oh, yeah.
Or other people of this generation that we've covered. I think even Destiny's most trenchant critics would have to concede that.
Well, I will say though, Matt, like Destiny's 35, so he's pretty much in. That's a
whippersnapper, Chris.
He's only 5 years younger than me, but fine, put him in the younger generation.
You've got an old soul, Chris. You do.
Yeah. I played StarCraft 2. All right, I played it. I just wasn't as good. But yeah, so let me play another clip then. Maybe let's go out of edgy stuff just for a bit. We'll get back to it. Don't worry, we'll get back to it. But I'm gonna let Destiny give a little description of his origin story. And this is him in a, Institute of Ideas interview that he was giving, talking about like where he comes from.
So you used to stream games on Twitch, and more recently, over the past few years, you went more into the arena of political commentary. Can you tell us what initiated this shift?
I've been playing games on Justin TV, which would become Twitch TV, I think around 2013, from anywhere from, I think, around 2010, 2011, up to 2016, when the Trump stuff started to kick off. I saw all the conversations happening, and I thought I'd throw my hat in the ring and start having like political debates. I'd always been kind of like an argumentative debate type person, and I'd always had like a peripheral interest in politics.
The whales
but then with the Trump stuff, obviously everybody started to feel very political online, and yeah, it felt natural to get involved.
So that tone of voice, by the way, you could hear it's slightly different, right? Like a different energy in this interview. So
very different energy. This is a Destiny on its best behavior.
That fat load to come dropping all over the place. And similarly, whenever they're talking about, Baltic Streaming talks about this.
I don't think we've ever had a setup on the planet where you've got a profit incentive on a worldwide thing that encourages people to only consume one type of content. Like, I think if you go back like even 15, 20 years ago before the internet was as big, you still had to be somewhat grounded because you had neighbors, you had your local community, you see people at church, you see people at the union, you see people at school. But now you can have whatever insane opinion you have. You can go online and probably find a community of like 5,000 people that have it, regardless of how insane your opinion is. And I think that kind of thing is relatively unhealthy.
So, concerns about polarization, and when it comes to whether his gaming skills may have contributed to like his popularity and, debating and this kind of thing.
Do you think there's a certain set of skills or set of characteristics that, being successful in one of those communities makes you successful in the other?
Probably not. I think that the overlap is more likely that there's if you draw like a Venn diagram of like people interested in playing video games and then a Venn diagram of like online early political pundits, there's probably a lot of overlap because of the demographics. Like it skews pretty young, it skews fairly wealthy, it skews fairly white. So when you have all these things together, you're going to get a lot of overlap between people that are, in both fields, I think. I'm of the opinion that most people that came from gaming had pretty bad political takes. When you're involved in like a thing that's peripheral to politics, then your entire political view ends up being informed by like one issue. So for a lot of people that came from the gaming space, it was like basically SJW and being anti-SJW, and that was like their entire worldview. So you get a lot of people coming out of the gaming space that were kind of like pro-Trump, just because they didn't like feminism, I guess. And by didn't like feminism, I mean they didn't like being told not to say slurs or not to be bigoted or whatever by the evil woke SJW people.
Yeah, that's him a little bit, outlining the streamer culture and the SJW, anti-SJW thing, but actually saying he's not so sure that the kind of characteristics that make somebody a good, streamer of games or game player actually carry over into political debates. And he said a similar thing when Jordan Peterson asked him, like, do you treat debates like a game? Is that part of your motivation? And he sort of said, no, he doesn't think so. But I actually do think there is a gamified element to the way that he approaches debate. But in any case, all of the comments that he says about gaming culture and their relatively superficial political takes and whatnot, that all rings true there, right?
Yeah. No, I think it'd be interesting to hear what he himself says about what he offers, but my recollection is he's quite upfront about that he is running a business, that he is a professional, I don't know what you call it, an entertainer, a commentator, or whatever. He thinks of it as a job that pays quite well. And yeah, I mean, I think he does have an extraordinary ability to marshal those facts, like do that sort of research, perhaps not super deep, but certainly very broad, marshalling all of those facts and arguments and then remembering them and then being able to go to a debate, say, with a Jordan Peterson and be fully and totally prepped. Yeah, I mean, just before we leave that colorful language stuff, I don't think people should.
It's coming back, Matt. It's not gone, so don't worry. But continue on.
Oh well, I could save my comment for then, but I mean, I think some people could think, well, someone who talks like that, you can't really take them seriously, right? They're not a serious commentator. But I was just reminded of, we talked about Martin Luther recently. Someone who is.
Oh, you're going to compare Destiny to Martin Luther? Go ahead.
Well, we compare Jordan Peterson to Martin Luther, so I think we can compare Destiny. Okay. Like by the standards of the time, he spoke the same way sometimes. Yes, he could do the very careful theological, philosophical arguments, but he also called the Pope and the clergy farting asses. And he talked about resisting the devil with a fart and chase him away. And it's a lot of scatological language there, which, to us sounds quaint, but was appealing, I think, to the medieval.
I like this take, man. I like this take. Gamers as the theological clergy of the Reformation. Saying retard and whatnot.
But I think the point is that someone like Martin Luther had different coded language as well, right? He could go.
Oh yeah. And I mean, I think you can. These clips I'm playing now are from this Institute of Ideas, or I forget the specific name for it. But anyway, that interview they did, and you can hear a more measured, mainstream, appropriate tone, right? And when asked about his debate tendencies and this kind of thing, he said this.
But back then, I would say it was willing to put in some effort to research, willing to have like sharp rhetorical skills, willing to be pretty edgy, and then inhabiting like a left-leaning political ideology. Those characteristics, again, besides me, were pretty rare. So I think there was a lot of hunger and thirst for it on the internet to see kind of like that group of people come up to fight against all of the kind of like the right-wing edgy people.
Okay, so again, like this, that's him positioning himself in a way in the kind of contrast space, willing to fight fire with fire against the alt-right people, and also, a bit edgy and that kind of thing. And the fact he mentions there that he did research, which put him into a different category, which we'll get into, and I think is also true. But here's him actually from the other piece of content that we're looking at, which is from his kind of manifesto, Why I'm Not a Leftist announcement, where the main part of that video is him litigating in excruciating detail a debate that he was in with a bunch of other leftisty people, right?
So the reason why I wanted to go over this is because this was like one of the big podcasts that now I'm getting attacked for by a lot of different people, but also because I noticed that there's a lot of revisionist history that surrounds what happened on this podcast. So, I spent about 7 hours last night asking my audience for clips, going through clips myself. I said, okay, well, you know what?
Jesus, is this me after the N-word manifesto? I need to stop calling it that. I can't believe I let people name it that. Is this me after the whole Hassan Snake shit? Damn.
Maybe I am full of shit. I rewatched probably about 2 hours of the debate myself to make sure that I had like a coming in fresh, that I have a fair characterization of what happened here. And yeah, let's check it out, okay?
And he breaks down all of the rhetorical techniques that they engaged in and how they misrepresented and how their positions are incoherent or whatever. It's a 3.5 hour video, right?
One thing that's going to be a trend for this debate is he's going to bring up a whole bunch of studies, but he's not going to talk much about them. You know what that's called? Don't say it. Don't spoil it for your chat. There's a specific name for this, okay? You might have seen it in a lot of threads accusing me of doing it.
When you bring up the name of a study, but you don't actually go into it, what's it called? Lying? Bad faith? Gish galloping? False appeal to authority?
But we'll get to that. We'll get to that right here. The Gish Gallop is a technique used during debating that focuses on overwhelming an opponent with as many arguments as possible, without regard for accuracy or strength of the arguments. Now, could I do that to people? Maybe. One of the things that I say before every single debate I have, and you can go back and listen to any of them, okay, is, hey, I talk a lot, and sometimes I even talk over people if I'm getting like real excited. If I ever say anything you disagree with, stop me immediately, and we'll go over it.
But at the beginning of it, he lays out his kind of political position, such as he understands it, right? So this is him talking to a streamer audience about a similar sort of topic that we just heard him talking about with a mainstream audience. And I think there are clear parallels here in what he's saying.
And this ties back into the fundamental reason why I got into politics. So as a reminder, the only reason why I got into political fields is because I feel like people weren't having conversations that were reflective of reality. That's the only reason why I got into politics. I'll repeat stuff I've said in the past. I didn't get into politics because I wanted to help minorities, or because I care so much about LGBT issues, or because I'm trying to save the planet from fucking climate change, or because I think I'm the white savior of whatever, black people, African people, whatever. I got into politics because I thought that people had conversations that weren't reflective of reality. Now, as a result of my analysis of certain problems, I've come into positions that are incredibly pro-LGBT, incredibly pro-minority, and not just when I'm around them, but when I'm not around them. That came from incredibly pro-welfare positions economically. Like, these are the positions that I've wound up at because these are the positions that I've thought myself into. Tying back into what I just said, why I got into politics was because I wanted conversations to be reflective of reality. I noticed that a lot of the criticisms that I get for the way that I behave are not reflective of reality. And this is incredibly difficult for me to sort through while I'm also trying to deal with thousands of comments of negative criticism, both from my community and without my community.
So there, right, he's talking about misrepresentation, but one thing that I admire here, in a way, is that he's not presenting himself as being like fundamentally motivated by super altruistic principles. You know, he doesn't want to save the world. No, his motivation was that he felt that people weren't representing political positions honestly, and that frustrated him. So he wanted to engage in that and try and be more direct or more honest or whatever. And I will say that I think that is true. Like, we'll go in to look at some of the other stuff that he says, but I think even where nobody's going to be consistent all the time, and you can also take issues with the particular positions that Destiny is choosing to try and be consistent on, or to, you know, outline clearly, but in that expressed desire there to be clear and to lay out positions clearly and be honest, I think he is somebody that strives to do that, including when he's talking in different audiences. Like, he's not lying in the different things, he's just modulating his message depending on who he's speaking to.
Yeah, well, particularly the style of the message. I mean, I think it is interesting that he casts himself not as being motivated, as being on a moral crusade, but rather being motivated by frustration. That people aren't thinking clearly about the facts, at least in his minds. And, you know, that is different from most of the other influencers we look at. Like, if you look at Hassan, he's definitely positions himself, it's moral grandstanding, I suppose. If you look at Jordan Peterson, he positions himself as being on a moral crusade. You could try to shoehorn Destiny's motivations as being a moral crusade in favor of fact-based and coherent argumentation, but you know, that's a pretty dry moral crusade if it is one.
Yeah, so let's hear a little bit about him reflecting on the debate bro topic for the two different audiences, right? So this is him on the more mainstream outlet, kind of talking about that issue and, you know, the ethics of debating people and so on.
Like, I can understand platforms saying like no racial slurs or something, like that's fair. But when we start like axing off entire parts of the ideological spectrum that we're not allowed to talk about, whether it's like COVID or vaccinations or election denial or whatever, it does really bad things, I think, to the discourse. It makes it so that people on the right feel unheard, which they should feel heard, even if I don't agree with them. It makes people on the left dumber because now they don't have any opportunity to kind of like sharpen their blades fighting these types of opinions, and then it just kind of drives all of us into these further further radicalized like echo chambers where nobody has any idea what's actually going on. Like, anytime I see a person on the right and the left come together and talk now, they just, in their minds, they just have the most ridiculous caricatures of the other's opinions, and nobody even knows how to have a conversation anymore.
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty cogent defense in favor of platforming and free speech, you know, having those discussions. I think, I mean, he has been criticized for giving legitimacy to neo-Nazis, say. We'll get to that.
We'll get to that. There's clips that speak to that. And yes, but I think you heard the echo of him, you know, what he was just complaining about, that he has to say all this stuff in order to get right-wing people to feel heard, right? But that's what he was exactly doing there. And this is him then, a slightly different thing, but like him talking about the accusation that he's a debate bro. And this is him talking to his streaming audience.
So the reason why I made this post was because I have to go through a great deal of effort after I engage with certain people to make sure, hey, like, am I full of shit? Like, maybe I am just like totally fucking getting high off my own fucking shit right now. Like, I might be totally wrong with this. Like, a lot of people are saying that, you know, I engage in dirty debate tactics, that I'm a huge piece of shit, that I scream over people. Like, fuck, like maybe I am, fuck it. And usually when I start to get these ideas, because I don't think I'm some exceptional genius that can walk into a crowd of 10 million people and just be right. I don't think that of me at all. I think I'm probably somewhat above average intelligence, but like, I don't think I'm fucking Einstein or whatever. I think I'm just a reasonably intelligent person. I can read pretty well. It's about what I have going for me. I got a lot of Wikipedia articles under my belt, okay? So when I run into situations like this, sometimes it's good for me to take a step back and go through the evidence. Well, okay, people say that. So let's a couple of examples. And I sometimes ask my community for this. People said that People say that I talk over people, that I talk too much. That's really interesting. When I had people go back and look at my debate with Nicholas Fuentes, he spoke for twice as much as I did, literally 2 hours to 1 hour. When I had people go over my debate with Michael Brooks, I think he spoke for like 35 minutes to like my 15. It was insane. When I had people go over my debates with, there was one other, but oftentimes at the end of my debates, I'll have my audience go through like, hey, can you go and check? Like, can somebody like go and actually map this out? Did I really speak? Because I don't feel like I did. I feel like I have a pretty good like vision of myself from the outside.
So, I mean, I have to have the caveat that I've only listened to 0.001% of Destiny's total content, but I have listened to 2 debates. One was with Norman Finkelstein and some other people. That was about
Gaza, Israel.
Gaza and Israel, yeah. And there was another one that was about the use of the N-word, which is probably another thing we'll talk about.
That's the content that we refer to.
Yeah. Well, I have to say that, I mean, like in both those bits of content, Destiny's telling the truth. Like, you know, he was the person that was attempting to speak, at least relatively speaking, compared to the people he was dealing with. He was acquitting himself well in terms of being a good faith discussion, however you want to describe it.
Yeah, he's trying to present his positions, right? Like, he's not trying to hide from them, even where they involve him, like clarifying that he doesn't think dropping a nuke that will kill 2 million Palestinians or whatever is not necessarily genocidal, right? Now, he wants to argue that because he wants to say that there can be things which are bad, which are not genocidal because there's specific characteristics, but that is him trying to clarify his position. Now, you can still disagree with it. You can regard that as like a very bad stance to hold, but he is trying to be clear about what his position is when he's doing that. And I do feel that a lot of the people that he engages with, that a lot of the frustration comes when he is trying to get them to like say what their actual position is, and they do not return the favor, right, so to speak. So yeah, and maybe these are clips that are relevant here. So from that stream, the one where he litigated, like a large part of it is litigating his argument that people should be able to use the N-word in private, which seems an insane political position, like a hill to die on for someone, especially with liberal sensitivities. But I think that speaks to the point that, like, if he thinks that that is the correct argument, he's going to die on that hill as many times as necessary to argue why he thinks it's coherent. So let's play a couple of clips about him, highlighting this desire he has to represent his politics accurately and what his politics are about.
My political beliefs are what they are, and I consistently present them through every single part of my life. I will say them on stream. I will say them to friends. I will say them on a stage full of black people who might even be police officers, full of an audience of black people that are conservatives that hate me. I have lost business relationships. I have lost friends or acquaintances. I've cut off family members. I've lost fans. I've gained friends, gained fans, gained business acquaintances. All of this has been like a big shift as I've kind of like grown and evolved with my political beliefs over time. All of my money comes from advertising on Twitch, and then subscriptions, and then revenue that I make through merchandising sales, and then the individual sponsorships that I sell along the way. I'm not paid by any major media organization, the Young Turks, Washington Post. None of these people give me money. I don't take donations for political purposes from anybody. The views that I express on stream are my views through and through. They always have been, and they always will be. That will never change, because I don't care to change them for anything else.
Yeah, I'll just have to say that this commentary of himself gels with the information that I've got about him and the impression that I've got, which is that, well, first of all, he's very upfront about it's a business model he's got. But also, as we talked about at the beginning, the streamer brand is one in which you seem to break down any distinctions between your personal life and your private opinions and your public-facing commentary, right? For good and ill, perhaps. But what that means is that in practical terms, when you are, just talking for hours and hours on end every day, the brand is authenticity, right? Like him or loathe him, the brand is the character, whether it's Hassan or Destiny. And he does seem to be serious about his attempt to be to be consistently himself, I guess, in all of these different contexts.
Yes. Yeah. So I'll take a slight pause, Matt. We'll continue back to Destiny, owning his beliefs and being sincere or not. But I feel a sidetrack might be useful at this point to just illustrate to people who are, wondering, like, what exactly do you mean in terms of personal and political and whatnot, all getting intermingled. So this...
Wait, is there an easy way to, like, stick a flag in here if I wanted to do that? Or do you think this is the best way to do it? As, like, a mini picture. Flag emojis? I'm trying to look at emojis and I don't see flag emojis on Windows. I've got emojis. Oh, hold on. What would it be called? UK? If I look for flag, I've got the trans flag, the rainbow flag, the checkered flag. Copy paste this. GB. Wow. You got to Google for the country flags.
This is from a stream Destiny did after getting divorced from his wife. And he's now commenting on her contacting him about some money or something, right? Like, the stream is an hour and a half going over the various issues that he has with the way that his wife has acted or whatnot. And this is Melina, a 20-year-old at the time they got married, fellow streamer or Instagram person.
Wait, this guy's from Ireland? Is that a normal Irish accent? He can say the E. I can never say that E. There's a weird way that Swedish people say E's, and I don't think in English we don't usually have the sound, or at least in American English we don't. Huh.
Anyway, let's just hear a little bit of that.
Does a therapist know about that trait, talking shit to other people in Mel? Yeah, of course. It was one of the huge things that would come up over and over and over again. But she always had like an excuse for everything. I'm just trying to think like where I want to, because there's just like one or two quick things or whatever, and then I'll probably do a more comprehensive thing. Why do you think that she isn't going to leak or talk shit? Melina will not leak or talk shit about any of this because she knows that everything about this makes her look like a f***ing satanic demon. She knows that.
True.
She's threatened it a million times. Like, I'm going to start leaking it. Oh, yeah, let's go. Okay, if you really want to, holy f***, because my reputation is already zero in regards to our relationship. Everything's a horrible piece of shit. We want to start leaking shit. We can do it. She knows that she looks horrible though.
Yeah.
So wait, man. Well, let me just play the second clip for that, and then
True.
The comments. So that's one thing, and then here's a little bit more of that.
Yeah, I'm sorry. The only things that I want to do though is I want to make sure that like I don't want to be thought of as a liar. That irritates me. I don't like the idea that the impression is that like I'm an abusive person, and I want to give like a very broad accounting of like things that have happened because I don't like the impressions that exist of me like relating to a lot of this stuff. But what I have to like be careful about is I don't want it to be like I hate Melina, which I do by the way. That bitch. Everything's coming to her. Thank God. But I don't want it to be like, because I hate her, now we're leaking 6 hours of like our private life to make it look bad. That's not like my goal, and that's not even for her. I don't care about it. It's just, it reflects poorly on me, and it's not like the character that I don't think it's becoming of like high character.
I don't know that becoming of high character, discussing, you know, your marriage counseling therapist sessions and referring to your ex-wife as an effing satanic bitch or whatever. Like, I don't know. I think that ship is sealed about taking the high ground at that point.
But
it could go so much more.
Referring to about
so much further.
Authenticity, and it's not like just a simple compliment. It's maybe not even a compliment at all, because the brand, someone like Destiny, is living their life out in the open, so to speak. There doesn't seem to be any kind of filter and no boundaries. You and I don't often talk about our wives, for instance, on this podcast.
No.
But, you know, and I think this is the bit that will sort of bend normies' brains a bit, which is that this is part of the appeal. I think this is part of the draw, that Destiny presents himself, I think, quite genuinely as someone who lays it all out there. The audience is invited to get involved and to be a part of this as well, warts and all. And yeah, it's just a very different thing than what most of us are used to.
We'll return to the absolute dissolution of boundaries in Destiny's content and community in a bit. But let's go back after that little sojourn into personal matters to Destiny staking out his kind of philosophy and stuff again. And just to mention there, Matt, I do think there's a through line, because the frustration that Destiny mentioned was being misrepresented, right? Like feeling that he isn't being accurately portrayed by Melina or the discourse. That's why he needs to set the record straight, right? And I think that does fit with his kind of position about politics. Is like, he doesn't seem to care so much as long as people accurately represent what he's saying. Like, he seems to get most annoyed by people misrepresenting what he's trying to argue for or say. So anyway, returning to the more philosophical side of Destiny.
I noticed that a lot of people seem to get off on accusing me of grifting, and something that's very frustrating to me is that when I talk to people, I find that I spend half the conversation trying to figure out what is it that you actually even believe. People have a really hard time owning difficult positions. They won't bite the bullet on the logical conclusions of some crazy position they might hold. For instance, when I ask Hassan if a woman getting raped in an alleyway is within her right to call the cops, Hassan, instead of giving a straight answer, will instead pussy out like a coward and say, well, I wouldn't call the cops, instead of actually owning that position and saying, well, sometimes maybe you do need to call the cops.
Bro.
When I ask people about whether or not, you know, they...
By the way, Hassan, who says you should never call the cops because you never know if they'll come and kill a minority and that's evil, blah, 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 called the fucking cops on his ex to do a fucking wellness check on her. Literally called the police because she wasn't returning his fucking phone calls to do a wellness check on her. It's one of the reasons she doesn't talk to him anymore. Haha, thank you. Fucking piece of shit.
Own a position related to... and we'll go into more of this later on, but basically, like, I noticed that a lot of people have a lot of trouble owning, like, all of the extensions of, like, whatever political system they believe in. I don't. I'll own every opinion I have, whether it's related to the fucking incest discussions we've had, whether it's related to foreign policy, whatever. I'll own every position that I have, whether it's the abolishment of capitalism or liberal values or whatever. Yeah. You might not like what I say. I think there are valid challenges to a lot of what I say. I don't think I'm correct on everything. My views have continued to evolve over time. I wouldn't expect that process to stop. I'm sure there's positions that I hold today that I probably won't hold 5 years from now. I would hope so. I would hope I continue to grow and change. All I ever do is present to you what I believe at any given point in time, and what you're getting is basically like always a work in progress.
Authenticity, as you say.
Yeah, reasonable philosophical Destiny is quite appealing to me. Like, I think what he's saying there is true, and he's pointing to something real. Obviously, you know, when people have a rhetorical position or a political position, they'll often refuse to engage with the consequences, like logical consequences of that position. So he was referring there to the fund the police. It's always wrong to call the police if there's a crime going on, that kind of thing. And he says, and you know, I think he's right in saying that a lot of people who would hold that position, for example, will refuse to talk or grapple with the logical consequences of that. One thing I'll say for Destiny is that whether his positions are good or bad, I don't think he would do that. I don't think he would obfuscate and sidestep it and change the topic. I think if you said, hey, explain to me why you think it's okay to do a genocide on the Palestinians or ethnic cleansing, you know, explain that to me. I don't think he's going to avoid the question.
No, and here's a clip speaking to that.
With relation to the Trihex stuff, I know that there is no world where a person as white as me has an argument with somebody that is almost...
they're going to destroy this clip because they're going to play me talking and not Hassan reacting to it. Fuck.
Going to avoid the question.
No, and here's a clip speaking to that.
With relation to the Trihex stuff, I know that there is no world where a person as white as me has an argument with somebody that is almost crying about whether or not they can or cannot use the N-word. That's never going to turn out well for me. I know that. I know that in the public eye, no one is ever coming out saying like, yeah, Destiny crushed him in that. That's never going to happen. But I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that because part of what I sell as part of my brand, and I sell this in a business sense, as in you watch me and subscribe to me, and I sell this in a personal sense, as in if you're going to have a romantic, a sexual, a friend relationship, a video game relationship with me, authenticity is a really big selling point of my character. You hopefully, should never, ever, ever have to guess what I'm thinking, ever. You don't, like, I don't know what Destiny would think about that. I don't know what Steven would want about this. Like, you never have to guess. I'll tell you. You know, if you think that you're really hot and that I'm just, like, faking an enjoyment for sushi to get in bed with you, it's not gonna happen. I fucking hate sushi. It's never gonna happen, and I'm not gonna fake that, okay? I'm true as fuck, okay? Steak boys for life, okay? I eat shit that comes from the ground, not from the fucking sea. Fuck that shit out of here, okay? Or, if you're a black person and you talk to me and you say, Destiny, what do you feel about the N-word? Destiny, how do you feel about reparations? Destiny, why do you think black people have the problems in the US? The answer that I give you is going to be the same as I give anybody, anytime, on any platform, and in any environment. It's always going to be the same. Nothing I do is performative.
I feel he may be slightly overstating things because he does give different answers depending on, you know, the audience and how much the people can handle and that. But I think the sentiment is correct, which is like he does say what he thinks and he tries to make it consistent across different contexts. Like, he doesn't try to obfuscate his positions. That much all seems true. Even if the position is, you should use the N-word, you should be free to use the N-word in private with other people that are not racist. That is his position on that, by the way.
Just out of interest, because I heard the debate about it, but I didn't hear I couldn't get any sense out of it, maybe because the people he was talking to were so terrible. What is his position? Is it like a kid who's listening to NWA, who's singing along to the lyrics and
his position is, in one sense, the context matters, right? That, like, if you're using the N-word in the context of reciting the song, say rap song, that matters, right? It's not the same as saying it as a...
This always gets quoted. I notice this. I'm starting to push back on this because it came up in that troll call today, too. I've never defended calling people racial slurs, ever. I don't think at any point in my career, even when I was the most edgy, like 13, 14 years ago, I don't think I ever defended, like, oh yeah, you should be able to call people racial slurs. Like, I just don't think I've ever...
Slur. But the second point, I think the more controversial one, is that he wants to argue it's fine to use privately with other people, not just the N-word, but any ethnic slur or whatever, where people know that you are not a racist, so you're using it as like an edgy joke, right? But his position also is you shouldn't do that in public, because it can encourage, you know, like, he understands audience dynamics and normalizing bigotry and that kind of thing. So he's saying, but in private, like amongst friends who know that you're not racist, it should be okay to use the N-word, you know, even if you're white, if you don't mean it in a racist sense.
Yeah. I mean, you and I are not from the United States, so this is not the cultural touchstone or third rail here.
It didn't come up much in Belfast.
No.
So that had to be a way. Other people did say it in rap songs and whatnot.
But, you know, I mean, transferring that to the context that I know about, I mean, I do agree that we shouldn't treat words like magical talismans with superpowers. Like, some heuristics around not using certain words are certainly good. But, you know, I follow an account called Eat Wog, right? And it's a Australian of Greek or Italian descent. And, you know, wog food is great. You know what I mean? Like, that word has lost... Oh, it's a slur. It's a derogatory term for, say, a Greek or a Lebanese or an Italian person.
Oh, right.
And it's a Australian of Greek or Italian descent. And, you know, wog food is great. You know what I mean? Like, that word has lost... Oh, it's a slur. It's a derogatory term for, say, a Greek or a Lebanese or an Italian person.
Oh, right. I was thinking gollywog. So I was like, God damn that.
I can't remember doing it, but I'm sure I might have used that word in a similar tone, in a similar context, in a friendly, joshing, where everyone involved knows that there is no sting in it. And it is just sort of absurd. Like, it's just absurd at the moment to be racist towards Greeks or Italians, say, in Australia these days. And similarly with my brother, who happens to be gay, you know, he and I have used the phrase, oh, that's so gay, talking about something between ourselves, knowing exactly what we mean. So, yeah.
His position is also, Matt, that there was a guy called Trihex that he did a podcast with, a black guy, and Trihex had a discussion with Destiny where he got very upset with him over this position. And I think they ended up, I don't know when they stopped doing the podcast or whatever, but in any case, you know, the relationship was materially damaged by the stance that he took on this. But Destiny, in some sense, he's a lot more extreme than I think a lot of people would be, because other people might just be like, you know, it's not that big of a deal. I don't want to hurt my friend, and I don't want to be known as the N-word guy. But Destiny is like, no, there's a, you know, this point matters. And he's annoyed because he heard Trihex in another conversation give his justification, right? And he's like,
which was the exact same as mine, verbatim, like a week earlier. My God.
Well, that's inconsistent.
So you're saying that if you use the N-word with a hard R, there's no context here. It's automatically bad.
No, I'm
and you're critiquing a point for asking for context there. However, the intention of how that...
Oh my God, they even have it. Holy shit. Nobody is like... This is like the lost clip of Trihex giving my position a week before I went viral on fucking Reddit, traumatizing my black friend.
Give his justification, right? And he's like, well, that's inconsistent.
So you're saying that if you use the N-word with a hard R, there's no context here. It's automatically bad.
No, and
you're critiquing a point for asking for context there. However, the intention of how that word is used can give you more than just a binary good or bad judgment over the usage of the N-word with a hard R.
Okay, a gamer...
Now we have Zerka saying hard R is always dehumanizing, and Trihex, this is just a few weeks ago, says that contextually...
Like Mitch, using it, when is it the right context?
Let him finish, John. Example, was he using it with a hard R to be edgy humorous and not a direct negative connotation tone, or was he using it to assault someone?
There is no humor in that word. It's dehumanizing. What are you talking about?
Here we literally have my argument platformed verbatim. that contextually, even a hard R with a white person might not be dehumanizing, like Zerka is saying.
And he also is annoyed that Hassan will agree with him in some other conversation that there are circumstances where it's okay, and then when he's in the presence of black people, that he'll say something different.
I'm sorry, what does Hassan say when it's just me? When it's whitey to whitey? When it's cracka to cracka? Okay? When it's fucking pale friend to pale friend? When it's two people that can walk into a room with a single
Oh, you know what I just realized? Holy fuck. Just because of this show, thank God I did that fucking manifesto. Because that's where all these clips are probably coming from, right? It's all dug through because I laid out the entire thing from top to bottom on this. Oh.
So, black people, that he'll say something different.
I'm sorry, what does Hassan say when it's just me? When it's whitey to whitey? When it's cracka to cracka? Okay? When it's fucking pale friend to pale friend? When it's two people that can walk into a room with a single flashlight and light the whole motherfucking place up, whether it's from my pale skin or the growing baldness on his fucking head, okay? What does Hassan say at this point?
But if someone else is doing it in the privacy of their own conversation with another person, there are specific contexts in which you could probably say the N-word.
Cool.
That is my...
Now, this is poorly clipped because he gives more context in the first like 10 seconds back, but it actually is all context that helps me. Hassan unironically makes my private public language argument. Now, I don't know why he's not brave enough to make it in front of black people. Maybe he feels like black people are too stupid or emotionally immature to handle his position. Maybe he's scared. Maybe he's worried that his audience will think it looks bad. Maybe he's more concerned with optics than with principles. I don't know. It's not really for me to say. I'll use Hassan as an example. I'm not going to talk to a black person like Trihex and say, hey, the N-word, it's always bad, brother. Brothers for life, dude. ESL, man, I'm Turkish, dog. Yeah, I totally get you, man. The N-word is horrible. I'm not going to go into a podcast with other upset black people and then perform, like a circus animal for them and go like, yeah, you guys are right, man. I know why you guys are triggered. Like, amen, guys. Like, the N-word is always wrong. It's dehumanizing, right, guys? But then when I'm in a one-on-one conversation with a white person later, like me, yeah, dude, like, we can say the N-word sometimes. Like, it's cool. As long as it's, like, appropriate. Like, and the joke is really funny. Like, yeah, it's cool. I'm never going to do that shit. Whatever I say, I'll say it to every single motherfucker that I talk to. Full stop. You never have to guess where I stand on any issue, okay?
Yeah, so the topic at hand, like the contentious issue is frankly a stupid one, right? Is South Park style bad language okay sometimes, right? Who cares?
Yeah.
But
Americans care. Americans care about this stuff a lot.
They do. Sorry, Americans. But I think it speaks to his motivations and his character. Like, he is aggressively upset about people just saying things because it sounds good. It's going to make people happy in this situation, and he's completely fine with people thinking he's an asshole or a degenerate or whatever. And that's but he hates people misrepresenting him, like you said, or thinking he's saying something which he isn't.
Oh, and then also, hold on, can I make a thing on this? Some people will say things like, oh, like, yeah, people don't like me because I'm a truth sayer, or people just don't like me because I'm blah, 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 blah. Listen, okay? If you want to be an asshole, okay, I'm kind of an asshole sometimes. That's fine, but don't act surprised when people don't like you for it. All right. The same thing I say it personally, say it publicly, say it on my stream, say it to other people. Okay. Listen, there are going to be some people that don't like me, and that's fine. Okay. I'm not a likable person to everybody. I'm A-okay with that. The only annoying thing is when people will have positions like mine, or they'll kind of be a dick like me, and then they'll be like, oh yeah, people just don't like me because I say the truth all the time. No, people like you here very fucking, what's the word I'm looking for? A word for rough around the edges. People don't like you because you're there's a perfect word I'm looking for. Abrasive. That's the one. Yeah. Just accept it. It's okay.
Yes, and he's very clear about this. Like, just another example.
Do I want to change how people reacted? Am I happy that some people were upset? Do I care to change myself enough to make some people not upset? How much am I invested in a particular thing? Do I enjoy the freedom I have to be, very bombastic and very aggressive and abrasive? Is that worth the trade-off where I lose some friends, I lose some sponsorships? Some people are turned off by my messaging because I'm too aggressive. These are all things that I'm weighing at the end of the day. And big situations like this give me a really good chance it's a lot of data, right? I can step back and I can think about a lot of different things. Did I approach my conversation with Trihex correctly? Should I have bended on some principles? Should I have been kinder in public? Should I have phrased things differently? Should I have been more argumentative? Should I have been less argumentative? Should I have reached out privately? Should I have avoided this forum altogether? Maybe these aren't the right places to discuss things. There's a multitude of different dimensions that I can kind of look at to see how could I have approached this thing differently? What would the different results have been? Is it good, is it bad, or whatever? And I apply this to a lot of the different things that have happened over the past few days. So, okay. So I go through, understanding that all of that exists in my mind. So this is there's a pretty personal view that I have of the world, right? I'm going through a very personal way that I evaluate and my own behavior to make sure that I'm bringing it in line with how other people see me. I like to think that I have a very, very, very good idea of how other people see me. I like to think that I understand why
no one cares.
Why people fucking hate me.
No one cares, little bro.
Part of my personality people enjoy, part of my personality people fucking hate. And I think for the most part, I have a pretty good grasp on most of that. Like, sometimes it seems like I get a lot of feedback that's negative, and I do. Generally, I'm aware that it's coming, and generally, I just don't care.
Like, I like the final, he goes through quite a lot. He's clear, I do have all these thoughts. I do reflect on things, and actually, he outlines like a quite detailed, reflective process. But his conclusion at the end is like, I do think about all that, and then I decide that I don't care in most cases. It's refreshing.
It's such an interesting character.
Yeah.
I think we're building up the picture of what makes Destiny tick, and also what is his appeal to his audience. And one thing I don't think we have, Makeley, we've hinted at a few times, but how would you describe his political location, Chris? He's a mid-moderate liberal, left-wing progressive, but not on the bleeding edge of it. Yeah?
Yeah, he's a liberal person that leans progressive, but is definitely not a leftist. And I do think, like, I can play 2 clips that basically illustrate where he is politically. Like, here's him talking a bit about Biden.
I mean, legislatively, like, I think in the first year or two, I think people would have said that Biden accomplished more than anybody thought he'd ever be able to do. So legislatively, the administration is very strong. I would argue that foreign policy-wise, I think it's fairly strong. Some people are unhappy that the Afghanistan pullout wasn't as nice as it could have gone, but at least we're out. And I'll give a major props to that. Trump said he was going to stop. He pushed it off until the next election. So, I mean, at least we're out of Afghanistan. And I think the United States has done a really good job at taking leadership on the Ukraine issue with Russia. But then that's contentious among people on the very far left and a lot of people on the right. So, and then also there were like early day successes as well. Like, I think we buoyed the economy pretty well for COVID. He got the 100 million vaccinations in like half the time he said he would, even though maybe that's not 100%, to Biden's credit. But in terms of like on leadership, I think that he has the demeanor of a president, which is nice to not have to look at Twitter to see what my fucking leader is saying every day in the world stage. Foreign policy wise, he has a respectful foreign policy. He's not like doing crazy stuff all the time. No photo ops with insane people. In terms of cons, I mean, the age is going to be a big one. I mean, you watch him talking about Bosnia 20, 30 years ago, and you compare that to today, definitely is slowing down a bit. Sometimes I wonder if he's a little bit too milquetoast. Like, I kind of wonder, I look at Biden, in my opinion, I feel like Biden he's pretty hard to hate because he's not like that polarizing, but he's also really hard to like get behind because he's not like that exciting. Whereas Obama was a person that the Republicans love to hate and the Democrats love to love. Biden is just kind of there. I think he does a good job, but in kind of a boring way, so people don't care as much.
Yeah, I think that's a good clip to play because you can basically locate an American on the political spectrum by finding out what they think of Biden. If they hate Biden, they could be hard left or on the right. But if they think Biden is basically fine but aren't terribly excited about him, then that's where you are on the spectrum.
Yeah, and we do have some clips that highlight the difference from leftists, so I'll play one of them.
The political distribution of people in the United States right now is very strange. If you go online, progressives basically run everything. But in the real world, progressives are a minority of the Democratic voting bloc, and they have almost no political power. But they seem to be very active culturally and in like schools, everything. The progressives kind of like have the reins on all the social issues, but I feel like they're running farther and farther away from where people are at organically in the conversation. Like, if you talk to a progressive, they would tell you that like the debate today needs to be whether or not like a 4-year-old can be considered trans. And in the United States, I don't even know if the normal voter has completely bought into anybody being trans yet. Like, my guess is probably 30 to 40% of Americans don't even believe that transness is like a real thing at all. The Republicans have made like trans issues the focal point, I guess, of the past like year and a half of all of their policies, of all of their talking points. Of like, I feel like every single day I go on Twitter, there's like 7 guys from the Daily Wire talking about Leah Thomas or some trans issue or some culture wars thing related to trans stuff or another book in the school. I feel like, more specifically, I guess I feel like progressives, when they go to argue about a lot of these niche social issues, there's very little understanding, very little compassion, very little empathy. If they run into somebody that disagrees with them, they basically immediately write them off as like a racist, a bigot, a sexist, a fascist, and they don't really have the ability to even engage in that conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's not an unreasonable comment on the American political scene at the moment, where...
I mean, I think it's fair to say he's not a fan. So, like, if you identify Destiny as a progressive, you have to take into consideration that this is his stance on the general progressive wing of the Democratic Party. And
well, sorry, I'll just interject there. I thought his main point there was that the, I guess, hyper-progressive issues that the edge of the Progressive Party in the United States likes to talk about is also something that the right wing and MAGA likes to endlessly go on about. So I think he's talking about more of a pragmatic risk you have.
Yeah, I don't think he's agreeing with like all the criticisms that he raises there, but I think he does hold a whole bunch of progressive things. But I just mean that, like, if you describe Destiny as a progressive, you have to at least describe him as a hypercritical progressive, because he's essentially saying most progressives are counterproductive for politics that they want to instantiate.
Okay, so you're using progressive to describe not all Biden voters.
No. Liberals. I'm using liberals. Like, I'm distinguishing liberals and progressives, and I think he is too.
I think that culturally, the progressives have put the Democratic Party in a really weird spot. Like, for instance, in 2022, we did really good in the elections. I think a lot of it had to do with abortion and Trump's bad leadership. But like earlier than that, the BLM riots and the push for socialism and the all costs are bastards rhetoric from the progressives, even though they're a minority of the party, really hurt a lot of mainstream Democrats in their elections.
Yeah, so politically, he's like mainstream Democrat in the US, liberal, but with some more progressive takes. But no love for the progressive wing, and certainly not for the communist, tanky, bleeding edge of the left.
I think the correct description is that while the center of his political opinions is center-left, milquetoast, boring, pretty standard, much like ours, but he's very much a heterodox edgelord on various issues, like we heard about Israel and Palestine.
Yeah, so there, Matt, we've been highlighting some of the mainstream political positions that he holds and where does he fit, in the landscape or whatnot. Let's go back into the world of streaming, the controversies and stuff that generate there. So one particular piece of juicy Destiny lore might be that he had plotted on his stream to kill a child. That was interfering with the stream by doing DDoS, denial of service attacks, right? Like hacker shit. And this was in the early days of streaming when you could do this through, I think, getting access to someone's IP address, and it interfered with Destiny's ability to earn money, right? And it's fair to say he took this badly. He ended up, like finding out details about the kid that was responsible, or kids, and contacting them, feeling that the family were not responsive enough, and threatening them in various different ways. And to be fair, he also contacted, I believe, the FBI and various law enforcement to try and get them to stop it. So this became well known because he talked about wanting to kill them, the boy and his father at least, and kind of plotting about how he would go about doing that. And now that might get kind of shunted off to edgy Nebraska Steve when he's in his 20s or whatever, being an edgelord. But in line with all the stuff that we've just been talking about, people have asked Destiny more recently how serious he was about that and how justified he thinks it is to plot out to kill a hacker child who's interfering with your stream. And I've got 2 clips from him engaging with someone about that.
One lawyer, and he told me that for lawsuits like this, that because all of it is uncharted territory, that one, it would cost me tens of thousands of dollars because you would need tons of expert witnesses to come in and explain things like TCP IP stacks to the fucking jury, even begin to talk about a DDoS thing. And that two, the likelihood of it even succeeding is going to rely almost completely on how tech savvy the judge is and if people even understand what's going on. And that proving damages and stuff might be difficult too. That so now you're looking at a big ticket.
So now
if
your question is in that situation where the law is murky, where it's expensive, in that case, and when the police don't seem to be doing it because it's uncharted waters or whatever, is the right solution to kill someone? Do we want to live in a society where that's set up that way?
Sure, okay,
so no. Should that be murder if you had killed?
Okay, what about beating the shit out of them? Attacking them?
I don't think that the law would cover that either.
Okay, then tell me what it should be. Tell me what you should do.
What you should do is you should advocate for new prosecutors and new laws and new protections. That's what we do in this.
This is the gayest possible fucking.
Now let me ask you a question.
No, wait, you didn't answer.
Okay, yeah.
So again, the kind of tone you might take it. So there he did kind of imply, well, what if I beat the crap out of them instead with that? And the guy say, no, you can't do that. But a bit more from that conversation.
I want to restate then, your solution is that I should have advocated to Congress that they change the laws while I lose my job for 5x plus years for them to figure out what to do.
I would recommend that you get self-help. I would recommend that you start a lawsuit. I would recommend you do exactly what you did, which is to find new ways to protect yourself.
Which is what I did do, yeah.
Okay, yeah, perfect. I wouldn't recommend, and anyone who recommend that you kill someone would be wrong. Look at how much worse your life would have been if you had done that. If you're just looking at the particular case that you had.
I mean, it depends on whether or not I figured out how to...
It is the case your life would have been ruined if you did that.
Yeah, but I don't know. If the alternative would have been that there was no solution for these types of attacks and people could infinitely grab your IP from a whole bunch of things, my life would have been ruined either way. I don't know which one would have been worse. I'm not sure.
You're not sure what would be worse to be...
Well, it depends on if you get caught or not, right?
Isn't that
true. Fucking killing somebody if you get caught?
All right, now, look, did I answer all your questions? Can I ask you some questions?
Yeah.
Okay. If someone had done what you said that you were, whatever, that situation, should they have gone to jail?
No,
and they were caught?
No.
Fuck them.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So let's just recap really briefly to tell me if I've got this straight. So this young troll hacker kid doing distributed denial of service attacks back in the day, back when that was a serious problem. There wasn't an easy solution. Destiny attempted to resolve it by contacting the kid, so please stop or whatever.
Contacting his parents. Yeah.
Contacting his parents, saying, hey, your kid is being a hacker. Going to the police and even the FBI, who I think you said just weren't interested because it's like they found it.
They didn't really understand, didn't take it seriously. Yes.
Yeah. So Destiny's position is a legal case, a civil legal action against the kid or his family would be impractical, poor chance of success, etc.
Yeah.
Therefore, time-consuming. Therefore, a beating or a murder is the right thing to do.
Potentially without punishment, because the other person asked them, if you were caught doing that, do you think the person should be punished? And in other parts of the conversation, he is saying, well, if someone was threatening your livelihood and you weren't able to provide for your family, they were coming every day and stopping you feeding your family, wouldn't you be justified in taking, action? And I kind of feel still fundamentally missing the point that, no, you cannot, you cannot murder people, even when they're behaving extremely unreasonably and damaging your ability to earn a livelihood. Like murder, no, it's not like, if they are threatening your life in terms of they are attacking you, then there are some occasions where that's justified. But Destiny seems to be advocating that, but it was really annoying and costing him a lot of money, and therefore, what's he supposed to do? Yeah, but the point is that he is upfront arguing for that, right? I think
so this is the interesting thing, apart from the extremely edgy aspects of his point of view there, is that he said this years ago.
Many years ago, like back in the early days. Yeah.
And it would have been entirely possible to say, hey, I was really upset at the time. I was extremely emotional. My entire livelihood was being threatened. I was blowing off some steam. I don't think that. But no, he will die on that hill. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's
somebody's going to die on it.
Well, and to be clear, he didn't kill the boy, right? So he found a way around it. And he apparently, I don't know how much this is true, but I did hear it in one of the various Destiny lore videos I watched, that he made a website detailing, the various technical steps he made to immunize himself from this kind of attack, and it became a standard that many other streamers followed to avoid this. So he actually did a public good in some respect, as opposed to a murder. But it's the fact that he feels a murder morally and logically would have been justified. And he's prepared to explain, like, in the past couple of years, that is still the case. Like, that's a reasonable position to hold. No, he's wrong, Matt. Just to be clear. I mean, you can agree with him if you want, but I think a large amount of people would see the problems inherent in that argument. But the fact that he is making that in public is quite remarkable to me.
Yes.
Like,
it's remarkable. Yeah, I'm not going to debate him about it, but I'll just say that I also think it's wrong. There's no circumstances.
If we speak to him, I am going to raise this because I just want to understand the process a bit more. But
the thing is, Chris, I think if you asked him, he would be exactly the same as in that other interview where he would steamroll you with a bunch of very logical, very coherent arguments why it's the case. Right?
I don't think I can out-debate Destiny, but I don't know that his logic is going to hold very firm in this position, right? Like, I think this is like one of these tasks that they give you at debate school about defend this position, which is almost indefensible, right? So that would be an interesting challenge. But a similar thing, Matt, just to mention this, I feel this is a little bit similar. It's kind of getting into the edgy tendency, but also the express your opinion directly. So there's a stupid red pill podcast called Fresh and Fit. It's manosphere, high quality meal, alpha man shit. It's stupid, misogynistic, like Andrew Tate level crap. And one of them is currently going through a controversy because he had sex with a Instagram influencer woman, and she is now claiming that she is pregnant with his child and wants him to materially support, right? So it's all the things that those idiots spend their time warning about, that there's these gold diggers that are trying to get your money and whatever, and you need to avoid these traps. But setting that part of the dynamics aside, the woman in question was on some other stream discussing her situation, and Destiny jumped in. In Destiny's position he is sort of condemning of the Fresh and Fit guy, but he wants to also condemn her for like going and getting pregnant from an influencer, and then she hasn't had the kid yet, but has a plan that person needs to pay child support and all this. So he wants to say that is immoral as well. And I'm just going to play the clip of him talking to the woman in question and showing that, again, he likes to very clearly state his position regardless of norms of decency or, let's just hear what he has to say.
Who are you? How do you have the right to talk about this? Like, talking about a man.
Because I'm apparently older than you, I've got more life experience than you. I'm the only one.
Emmy, so you have more rights?
No, apparently I'm just curious. It seems like you have like all of this.
I don't want to talk to you right now.
Okay, so Daisy.
I don't want to talk to you.
Let me,
Okay, Destiny's going to take a break for a little bit.
I am. I'll take out. This woman is a piece of trash, though. She's ruining his life.
You are
actually subhuman filth. Just let you know that.
Yes.
You can say whatever you want.
Hit her up with the.
You can say whatever you want.
Yes.
I feel that he's expressing himself with directness, fairly misogynistic language or whatever, but he basically just wants to say you're a terrible person for this as well. But that's what I mean is, like, I feel that if you ask Destiny about that opinion, about him saying that to her, he'd probably say, maybe I shouldn't have said God will judge you or whatever, but he would be like,
God will
I think
judge
she
her.
is in the wrong, and that's what I was wanting to express. And yeah, so that tendency has not gone away, right? Like, this is very recently he did that. I think that's from like a week or two ago. So
right. Yeah. Okay. So how would you characterize it then, Chris? It's a combination of this internet, this very, very crude internet culture norms in terms of how people talk, and he also doesn't care personally about the mores and mores of being a little bit delicate, being a bit careful around a sensitive topic. He just wades right in.
So I find some of this a little bit confusing initially, because I could see Destiny in these like streams or mainstream appearances where like he's being very careful and whatnot, and then I would come across like a drama stream event where he's on stream with various 20-year-old orbiters, and they're just having the most inane conversation. And I was kind of like, why do this? But I think the explanation is he enjoys it. Like, he does enjoy getting down in the muck and rolling around. And like, I'll give some examples from this, but right, there's a whole host of Destiny orbiters, and they sometimes are friends, they sometimes are enemies. As we mentioned earlier, there are videos that are titled like Bridge is Burning or Bridge Burned, right? Essentially for when he's going to cut them off and stop appearing with them or that kind of thing. And there's figures in his orbit who are relatively reasonable, or they're just streamers, or they have some political takes or whatever. And there are also extremely unhinged, often very young people with a host of issues, various self-diagnosed bipolar disorder or mental issues, various extreme political takes or whatever. And let me just highlight the dynamics that play. So Destiny joins in a call where various people had gathered to discuss him and their problems with him.
You become Destiny, who's dealt with this for over 10 years. 10 years, he gets constant hate. Can you imagine what that does to a person?
Right.
Like
most people aren't built for that at all.
Yeah, and Destiny talks about, he's like, oh, it doesn't affect me.
It
doesn't affect him more than he leads on. It really does. Of course it does. Of course it does.
You have to pretend it doesn't, otherwise it'll encourage the malicious people to do it more. You have to be that.
I don't like. Maybe that's true. Yes, that people care less if you care less, but I don't think that it requires deep sadness.
No, and now because maybe not deep sadness, but even maybe avoidance, like the fact that I think that part of why he wants to make villains is so that he is not the villain, right? You shift. He's like very constantly shifty, so that he is like you know, the Superman of the story. So he's the hero of the story or the victim.
God, it's so cringe when people try to do this like mind-ready, like wild, wacky, like superhero story shit with, and it's obvious that you're just doing it to like compensate for all of your own deficiencies because this is the only way you can make sense of the world. It's the cringiest fucking thing in the world.
Of the story.
This is just part of like the types of engagements. We're talking about debates that like the type of content we're doing is like where we are like getting into it, yelling at each other, cussing at each other, like going after each other personally. Like
yes,
it's just like
absolutely yes, but Tom, it is very different. It is very so like
right. This he wasn't like invited. He just jumped in and the host let him in because good content for them. So and this isn't talking to a woman called Catnip.
You can go off what I actually said in the video, but like why further spread the narrative that I'm like some kind of a gold digger or something?
I said, I fly home and arrive tomorrow night. You said, what time? I said, 10:30. You said, can my squad come? Are you down to hang? We have to go to the airport at like 4 a.m. But we were down if you have the time. And I said, okay, hey, yo, we can meet at a restaurant called Big Pink on Miami Beach at like 11:30 if you guys want. And then you said, my friend said, if you pay, we can. And then you sent me a bikini pic of all three of you.
Which was her idea.
So if you think that I miscommunicated any of our messages, I don't think I did, but those are our chat logs. There you go.
But then later I heard you mention something about it on stream, and then I said, hey, yo, was like that about me? And then I clarified that it was her who suggested that, and then you said, you're fine. But am I fine, or am I not fine about that?
Well, no, I thought it was incredibly
Are you holding it against me?
Yeah, of course, no shit.
Why?
Because
That's a big grudge to hold.
it was super presumptive and kind of cringe. I mean, I don't like hate you for it.
Hey, I also had second thoughts, and honestly, I was people pleasing in that moment. I'm like, I guess if that's what she thinks is like, okay.
Okay, so Chris, help me understand. This is an example of which a pretty typical thing that Destiny and his group does, which is like litigating in microscopic detail interactions and dramas. And
yeah, and in this case, it's not just an online one. There was the potential for them to meet up at some location, and the Catnip, I think, I hope I'm not misrepresenting the correct name here, but she suggested like meeting up somewhere with Destiny with her friend, and then suggested that they would come if he paid for dinner, and sent him a bikini picture, which he found cringe. And then you know they ended up talking about this on the
right, and then he talked about that incident on stream, and then she
talked about it, and he released the thing or whatever. And just to highlight again, it goes more than this. So there's other people on the call, as you can hear, like various people. But here's another example from the same call.
You can travel. You can do anything you want to do if you have money. And,
you can have sex with every BPD woman you've ever met.
Exactly. Let's fucking go.
Speaking of which, just to clarify, no, me and Destiny did not fuck. We never even met because Destiny didn't want to pay for dinner.
Base.
Whoa.
So you're saying it costs a dinner?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
My bad.
We never even got to meet.
Next time.
Wait, who's the guy with the nice voice here talking?
I know me and Destiny did not fuck. We never even met because Destiny didn't want to pay for dinner.
Base.
Whoa.
So you're saying it costs a dinner?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
My bad.
We never even got to meet.
Next time.
No.
I'm trying to make
I think I at least got a water bottle, if I remember.
Okay.
Oh my god.
Doesn't take much.
Hey, I offered to. That's why I was so hurt by the lie, because I even offered, you know, like to take him out for coffee. And I said after I was a famous porn star, I was gonna make it rain on him and Lena. And then he went out of his way to mischaracterize me as just the gold digger man.
Are you actually a famous porn star?
I know who you are.
No, not like big, but I'm not doing it.
What's a corn star, Chris?
Porn star, I think it's a porn star.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it does come up in the transcript as corn star. Oh, they probably edited it for the YouTube. Like,
I see.
Probably.
Right,
yeah.
right.
So, but yeah, and so that's the precursor to Destiny, I think, joining. Right, they're talking about all this, but you hear there another person who I believe is Lav, another Destiny orbiter, mentioning that when she slept with Destiny, at least she got a bottle of water.
Jesus
right.
Christ.
So this is one person who was potentially going to meet up with Destiny and sent bikini. And there's another person who has slept with him previously, talking on another person's stream about something he said to his community which annoyed them. And Jesus Christ, like
so this seems to be the darker side of the living your life in public, and the darker side of the ultra authenticity, which is everybody gets treated the same. All right, it could be Jordan Peterson, could be a pregnant Chinese influencer who's talking to him. It could be a fan who's BPD. There's a great deal of permeability. There is no reluctance to get involved personally, sexually with one's audience. And it has an aspect to it which reminds me of like reality TV, the Love Island and terrible shows like that, which is it's also entertainment. And just like with Love Island, I mean, people volunteer to go on these things and to sort of play around with the boundaries of doing stuff because they want to become famous, because they want to get the media airtime. It's kind of an act. It's kind of a drama put on for show, but it's also real to some degree. Am I understanding it approximately correctly, Chris?
Yeah, but it's, you know, like you heard with the Melina stuff, it's pretty direct at times. Like this is a different stream with one of the people involved in this discussion, Lav, talking to Destiny, right? And listen to this.
Kind of thing though, like making fun of people for sexually related things, wouldn't that be horrible? I'm glad that we have people like Lav in here to understand that, you know, should never do things like that, right?
So you shouldn't have showed me your you didn't want me to laugh at it.
Yeah, well, I know you'd run around talking to everybody because you were so proud about the fact that we, you know, kind of hung out with each other, so that was cute.
Yeah, well, you were really proud to call me mid-Jewish pussy, so I had to set the record straight.
You know, I just knew that it would bother the f- out of you to hit you in the only area in your life you actually have accomplished anything, which is like looking decent. But, you know.
It makes, I can't imagine how good it makes you feel. Someone with that weird of a to talk about the way that I look. So I'll let you have it.
Never had any problems with it. Never had any problems working it, but you know. You're the one over here with all the trauma. You're the one over here. I've never steamed my before, but apparently you posted guides on steaming pussy, so congratulations.
It worked. It made my period regular. It was a slay. A yoni steam, yeah.
So that's a different vibe from the you know.
Yeah, different vibe as well. Like, just it's one. I don't know. Like maybe some people don't consider this an Ian. You know, it's just an element of life. It's just people having sexual relationships and whatnot. But is it really something that?
Well, I might jump in here, Chris, because like if it came to light that Jordan Peterson was sleeping with a large number of women in his audience,
orbiters,
right? Then fans, then that would be big news. If Joe Rogan was, it would be something that I'm not one of these people that make a big deal out of power dynamics and things like that. But the fact is that Destiny is kind of like the Joe Rogan of streamers. He's the king of the hill. Jesus. He's an important guy. Purely for pragmatic purposes, a lot of wannabe influencers, wannabe internet personalities are drawn to him for those reasons. So there are those dynamics that are going on, and it doesn't mean that these people are victims and that he's necessarily a predator.
They are, and I am.
I think there are problems with these permeable boundaries, and there are rules for professors, for instance, in terms of not sleeping with students or graduate students or even junior colleagues, and those rules are there for a good reason.
Yeah, well, but also, I mean, there is the issue about the dynamics, and I think Destiny is someone openly polyamorous, and all of the people involved here are adults allowed to do whatever they want, and it's a bit like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. It feels like listening to this where people have done bad things, but they've done it to each other. Like there's one infamous episode where Destiny was sharing nude photos of some girl that he was sleeping with, but I think she was a streamer. I don't really remember the thing, but the point is she found out because some of the people that he was sharing her nude photos with let her know that they'd seen them or whatever. And she had access to his Twitter account, and she had dick pics of him. So she went onto his Twitter account and posted his dick pic out to his Twitter audience. And then they debated about the ethics of who was, wrong. And Destiny was like, I shared this to a select group of, close friends. And where's you? Put it to my 50,000 followers. And you're just like, who's in? I mean, Destiny is not in the right, but also the other person is not the right. And like I say, it's a bit like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where I'm like, these are all people doing bad things. And it's just like, it's such a dramatic thing that they're dealing with. And I get people like different things. For some people, they like these, complicated, messy relationships, like all this stuff. So, whatever's your bag, do your thing. But the thing is, this isn't done just in the privacy, behind the scenes or whatever.
But that's also part of, it's live, it's all public. But isn't that part of his or their philosophy or the culture, which is, Yeah,
it is. But it means that all the people end up characters in this drama, and they're the audience is aware of who slept with who, and end up litigating it on stream. And to just give an example of what this ends up sounding like.
I remember being like, wow, that was the best head I've ever got. And
Jesus
somehow you
Christ,
internalized that.
Fucking
As making
loud.
that about my other partners, which is
so
crazy.
cringe.
That's like what you say after good
story
head.
based on who you're talking to at any particular point in time. But do you still think I sexually abused you, or have you moved on from that part too?
Hard to say. I don't really think about it that much anymore.
Fuck, I thought I left a stronger impression. Hold down.
No, just the fear of phimosis, really, not anything else.
Is that why your name is Femoid now?
Yeah, you've really. Whoa, maybe it's like it remained dormant in my psyche.
Jesus.
I hope you get that figured out, by the way.
No, I'm good. I think it works fine over here.
Yeah, well, it's hard to clean it, I bet.
No, actually, it's pretty easy to clean. You just pull the thing back when you're not hard, and you wash away. But thanks for the tip.
Uncut.
Do I need to use a butric acid too?
All right, I've had enough. I get the
You get it, man. So is that much like a soap opera? It's a bit different. I guess maybe I'm not watching modern soap.
We went into the deep archives
for
this one.
Have got more extreme and whatnot.
Well, no, I don't think it's a soap opera. I think it's like a reality TV, like Love Island, but it's R-rated. It's Gonzo Love Island, right?
But the point you made, Matt, which I think is an important one, and I'll get off these clips after, but it does overlap and end up with there being debates about, is this to do with getting access to audiences and who is taking advantage of who and all this stuff? And there are various, accusations about who's being a stalker.
Have you considered the potential that being unfiltered could end up with you getting kicked off YouTube and maybe blacklisted by the major alternatives? It would be nuts, but definitely not impossible, in my opinion. I'm unfiltered, but I generally know the boundaries of what you're allowed to say on YouTube and whatnot, and I don't ever test those. I stay pretty far away from stuff like that.
Who's been revealing too much private information and so on. And very often also to say, many of these conversations involve people talking about self-harm, talking about feeling suicidal, and they're all dramatic people, so it is what it is. I think talking about mental illness and stuff is just stuff that is a lot more common amongst younger people and amongst a progressive liberal set. But there are people in the community or figures, various streamers that have committed suicide or overdosed in drugs and stuff. So I do think very serious consequences can come about. And so just this clip, this is Destiny and that person Lav trying to litigate the exact timeline of like
Why
when
the
they're
fuck
sexting
are we-
or when, you know, like things are happening
Why
in
is
comparison
Lab
to
so
when
much a part
Lab
of this?
appears on stream with Destiny and gets like
Oh,
a kind of bump in
God.
subscribers.
Okay, but what I'm saying is we didn't have. There was. You present this as though you're coming on to. This is just the impression that I think.
I'm not
people get.
presenting anything.
Okay, I'm sorry. It is being presented. I'm using the passive voice now. It's being presented as though you are coming onto my stream into the combat zone, crying in private because of how traumatic it is, and then I'm sexting you at the same time. But there's like at least a month or two. I think you just said 2 months of distance between us having any type of sexual relationship and the crazy combat sports we're doing on my stream.
No, any sort of sexual relationship. Steven, you just said that in October it could have been. We were still flirting. We had never had the conversation like, let's not do this. Our last in-person meetup, we had done something sexual together. There was no door that was closed. We were still absolutely flirty with each other, and I think we both like were open to sexual experiences in the future, right? Neither of us had a negative sexual experience with each other, so it's not like there was like some moment in which it was like not expected anymore. So yes, I still think that we had an open door policy for our sexual relationship.
Okay, I'm gonna repeat the same question because what you just did was so like.
Also,
not anything. Well, hold on, wait, you just said a whole bunch of things.
Yep. Okay.
So the thing is, in
Whoa,
that
I
point
dropped
of
a- wait,
consistency,
wait.
right, he is approaching this topic a little bit like he does debates on Israel or Gaza or the N-word, right? Where he's like, well, hold on, let's get the timeline straight, right? You say that I did this.
They sent me a iced coffee instead of a hot chocolate. Oh, I don't know if we can make it through the day now. Peter's the booker didn't respond to me. The booker is very hit or miss. Like he messages me and then sometimes he doesn't, and then sometimes he, I don't know. I don't think they're replacing Biden. I don't think you can replace. Only if he dies. True, if he dies, they could.
Hey, everybody.
Did I miss the memo? Are we hating
Hey, everybody. How's it
the Apple review guy now?
going? Hope you're having a lovely day. So today I'm going to be going over a video that a lot of you have been asking me to respond to for the past 2 weeks. And I'll be honest with you, I explained this a lot in my community post. I haven't responded to it because the topic itself just fundamentally depresses me. Over the last 15 years of trying to advocate on behalf of both repair shops as well as customers that want to be able to fix their own stuff and not even want to fix their own stuff, just want the manufacturer to take accountability and responsibility when they've released something that they know by their own internal documentation has design flaws that are going to screw over the user and don't do it. The fact that I've made so little progress on this has just made me not want to cover this particular topic. There's I don't know how to discuss it, a fundamental emotional block of just aggravation when I do it. But there's a video that came out recently that is just, in my opinion, one of the biggest pieces of propaganda that I've seen from a tech YouTuber or somebody like that, and this is something that needs to be covered. Now, the reason I've decided to cover this and the reason I've changed my mind on it is because Apple has released.
Let's watch this video.
So a couple days ago, I dropped a Twitter thread. Yes, I still call it Twitter. And I severely underestimated how many of you guys would be interested in it. But then a lot of the conversation that it drove was really interesting, and a lot of discussions that happened afterward were fun to participate in. So I figured I would drop even more of the footage here. So I'm back with more of my footage and clips from my visit to Apple's secret iPhone durability testing labs. So if you ever wondered how an iPhone gets water resistance tested or drop tested or shaken like crazy before it gets announced on stage, these are the labs where all of that happens. And then they have to connect the dots between their test results and how they actually build phones, which is fascinating. So the first thing that I saw was the water resistance testing. So I think a lot of us kind of take for granted at this point, most high-end smartphones, most flagships have IP68 ratings, but a lot of people don't actually think about it. That is a code where IP stands for ingress protection, and then the first number is for solids, and then the second number is for liquids. And so each of these numbers gets higher and higher as it's more protected against ingress. So some like earbuds or headphones, for example, you might see they are IPX4 rated. That just means they're not protected from dust, but from water, they can withstand some light splashes from any direction. So sweat. Great. So the first iPhones all the way up to the iPhone 6S were not water resistant at all, at least not rated to be. But then the first water resistant iPhone, iPhone 7, was IP67 water resistant. And then now we see everything being IP68, meaning it can literally be underwater for an extended period of time. And so this is what it looks like to actually test that stuff. There's literally specialty equipment just to torture phones with water and make sure they can survive. So lots of companies have these things, but it was cool to see it in person. So the lowest level of this test is basically a drip ceiling to simulate rain and splashing. So there's no real water pressure here, but a pass is good for IPX4 on this test. But then to simulate some water pressure, they have these jets that rotate around the device and spray it with water from all angles, into the speakers, into the earpiece, into the ports, everything. And if it's able to pass this test, that's good for IPX5. It seems so simple, but it's also pretty cool to see. I've never actually watched this happen. To turn it up to 11, they just put the phone on one end and stick basically a literal fire hose on the other end and just blast the phone with high-pressure water. Kind of looks insane, but if we want our modern smartphones to be able to get splashed from any angle many times over its lifetime and survive, then it has to survive this, and then it earns its IPX6 rating. But then finally, for IPX7 and IPX8, that's full submersion. So they have some lockable sealed tanks, but some of you may already know that IPX8 is supposed to be under deep water for a long time. So they actually have this pressurized tank where they can turn up the pressure inside to simulate different water depths and leave phones in there as long as they want. So now, ideally today, if you drop your phone in the toilet or spill water on it or drop it in a lake, whatever, for as long as it's down there, it should survive. Which, again, we kind of take it for granted, but that's all the seals and the gaskets and all the adhesives and things that go into getting it to pass those tests are what get it to pass the real-world tests. Now, there is an entire separate type of testing that you might have already seen on YouTube.
Lie after lie after lie. Oh, you're good. You're so good. This election is about you.
That is drop testing. And it turns out Apple has been doing their own internal drop testing for years now. So it turns out in the same building, Apple set up this full-on industrial robot by Epson that they've programmed to be a drop test robot. And then they've set it up in front of these ultra bright lights and super high-speed phantom cameras pointed at the exact spot on the ground where the phone will land. So the idea here is they can program the robot to pick up the phone and drop it onto any surface. And then they can have it repeat that exact motion and that exact same drop on the exact same angle over and over again, but with different surfaces, and they can A/B test them and take a look at exactly what happens. And then those of you who are camera nerds, you already know these phantom cameras are pretty serious. I don't remember the exact frame rate they told me they were shooting at, but it's pretty incredible. You can actually see the titanium on this iPhone 15 Pro wobble on its first impact with the ground. And its second impact too. So yeah, they had all kinds of different materials to do drop tests, from granite countertops to marble to corkboard and wood, etc. They even had this massive block of asphalt just sitting there, just waiting to see how the iPhone reacts to being dropped in the streets, you know? But this is a fascinating setup. Now, of course, the fact is most phones still just break immediately when you drop them on the ground. So I kind of wonder how much of this data is actually getting translated into real changes of phone design. But it's still cool that I got to see all this stuff. And then the hardest one to capture, for me anyway, is the shaking tests. Yeah, it's exactly what it sounds like. Shaking tests. Apple has rooms full of machines that are literally trays of devices strapped to a surface that's being shaken thousands of times at a specific frequency. It's actually kind of hard to record because if my shutter speed is at the right number, it doesn't even really look like anything's moving, kind of like how car wheels don't look like they're spinning if you have the right camera settings. But I did get a few clips where like I put my hand on it and you can see it's moving a lot. They're using this machine to try to simulate years of wear and tear out in the real world. Apparently, they can program in the frequency of a certain motorcycle engine or car engine or subway car or whatever constant vibration that they just want to check up on to make sure everything holds up to exposure to it over a very long time. But I really think the most fascinating thing about all this testing is they are trying, before the phone even comes out, they're trying to simulate years of wear and tear in the real world with real customers in a small room under the basement of Apple Park with like the machines that they've designed. It's a fascinating connection they've got to make. And I spoke to John Turnus, who's the head of hardware engineering at Apple, about this process, and he mentioned apparently they go through sometimes 10,000 iPhones prototypes before they actually ship a final phone with all this durability testing. Which sounds crazy. I don't know what number I thought it was in my head, but it seems insane that they'll make 10,000 phones to break before they ship one. And actually, while I had John there...
I'm so curious what he said that Lewis has so much of a problem with.
I felt like this was a unique opportunity to ask, because I've never really heard people from Apple actually speak out about the durability, but also the repairability of the iPhone. Like, we all know Apple's reputation for repairability, not great. Like, the iPhone's notoriously very difficult to repair. But also now it's a little clearer because the more I've thought about it, the more it feels like, I mean, Apple's just shown me a ton of durability labs, and durability feels like it's directly at odds with repairability. Like, it actually feels like it's basically a sliding scale with durability on one side and repairability on the other. And the more durable you want to make your thing, the less repairable you're making your thing. And all these decisions that go into making and designing a product are kind of pushing it back and forth along this scale. So take a listen to this.
But sometimes, for me, I find it helpful to kind of think about the bookends. Like, if you imagine a product that never fails, all right, that just doesn't fail.
Yep.
And on the other end, a product that maybe isn't very reliable, but is super easy to repair.
Right.
A product that never fails is obviously better for the customer. It's better for the environment.
Okay, it's interesting you put it that way, because on one end you have the product that never fails. On the other hand, you have the product that can be replaced infinitely, but it's not as reliable.
Yep.
That downside of being not as reliable comes from being infinitely repairable. But I think some would argue that the downside of being really hard to repair comes from being almost infinitely durable.
Sure, but they're not always.
Okay. I was gonna say, I feel like he's overreacting to this. That statement is very, 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 very not true. I'm sure there are some things that make things easier to repair that would make them less durable, but to just say that as a blanket statement, there's no shot that that is the case. That every time you make something more durable, it's like impossible to repair something. Like I feel like the statement is too strong. I feel like he's probably going to spend the entire video freaking out about that.
Not always mutually exclusive. Like those are kind of the bookends. So let me give you like a couple of examples. Yeah. I think of battery on an iPhone as being an important one. On an iPhone, on any phone, a battery is something, if you want to extend the life of the product, that's something that's going to need to be replaced, right? Batteries wear out. But as we've been making iPhones for a long time, in the early days, one of the most common types of failures was water ingress, right? Where you drop it in a pool, or you spill your drink on it, and the unit fails. And so we've been making strides over all those years to get better and better and better in terms of minimizing those failures. And I don't know how many years it's been now, but we got to a point of IP68, which is kind of a rating for water ingress, which is really impressive. And I think you get to see some of these tests, right? Yep. And it's great because we get these stories of people, literally, I dropped my phone in the lake, I couldn't get it for 2 weeks, I fished it out, it still works, they're super excited. That said, to get the product there, you've got to design a lot of seals, adhesives, other things to make it perform that way, which makes it a little harder to do that battery repair. Right. You still need to do the battery repair, so we need to make sure we have solutions for customers to do that, which we do. But it's objectively better for the customer to have that reliability. And it's ultimately better for the planet because the failure rates since we got to that point have just dropped, it's plummeted, right? The number of repairs that need to happen. And every time you're doing a repair, you're bringing in new materials, to replace whatever broke. Yeah. So you can actually do the math and figure out there's a threshold at which if I can make it this durable, then it's better to have it a little bit harder to repair because it's going to net out ahead.
So yeah, that checks out. I found that kind of interesting that we've never really heard anyone from Apple speak directly about this. Now, of course, in a dream world, if Apple's goal is to make the ultimate phone that never, ever breaks, then they probably shouldn't be making it from glass because, in the words of Jerry Everything, glass is glass, glass breaks. But still, they're trying to push as far toward that end as possible. And it is interesting to hear a little bit of the behind the scenes on the philosophy there. But yeah, that's been it. That's my behind the scenes look at Apple's durability testing labs that we've never seen before. Make sure you subscribe to see more stuff very cool like this coming up soon. And let me know what you think about this sliding scale of durability versus repair. Catch you guys in the next one. Peace.
They have released a propaganda piece that's about 24 pages that's going over how they are actually a very, very green company that values longevity by design. So I wanted to go through this entire document and demonstrate why every single one of Apple's points that they're making here, besides a couple of them, are complete garbage. And I'm going to have a lot of quotes here. To be clear, just to be upfront with you, I never use a script when I do my videos. All the edits you see in my videos are typically because my cat has run in my room and screwed with me in a way that should not be on camera. And it would take a 7-minute video and turn it into a 1-hour video if I kept all that in. This one I'm going to be reading off of a wireframe that I created for myself, a little bit of a template, because there's so many topics to get into here that I don't want to wind up missing any particular piece because I missed something. So let's go over this document in full and just go over why that piece from MKBHD's channel, as well as this document from Apple, is a giant piece of just, let's just be real, complete propaganda. So the main topic here is Apple's claims on longevity and repairability. One of the statements that Apple made in this paper, they state that they aim for a balance between durability and repairability, and they suggest that they design products to last long while considering repair feasibility. So to read from this document over here, the reason is simple. The best repair is the one that's never needed. For example, early generations of the iPhone were susceptible to failure if exposed to liquids like accidental spills, getting caught in the rain, or drops in water. So our design teams iterated until they were able to achieve robust liquid ingress protection, which decreased repair rates by 75% for the iPhone 7 and iPhone 7 Plus. While these changes may require the addition of adhesives, seals, and gaskets that made repairs more complex, the remarkable improvement to product longevity justified a slight increase in repair complexity. So one of the things that they're claiming here is that the iPhone 7 is more durable than the iPhone 6 as a result of what they've learned, that they design products to be more repairable and to have more longevity. However, do they actually learn from their lessons? Is this propaganda or is this real? The iPhone 6 had an issue with flexion. That's when the board bends inside of the phone case because the phone was made like complete garbage. And as a result of that, you wind up with an issue on the iPhone 6 and 6 Plus that came up in a class action lawsuit where the touchscreen would just stop working, where this did not happen on other devices. And Jessa Jones, my good colleague and friend, goes over how to fix that in this video. Now, court documentation came out that demonstrated that Apple knew that these phones were damaged and breaking at a rate higher than their other was when it came to this particular issue. And they did not fix it until the class action lawsuit came out. Now, every company is going to make a mistake. No big deal, right? However, they're claiming that the iPhone 7 is made to be more durable than the iPhone 6. They had to do these things that made repairability more difficult. However, it made the device more durable. That's fundamentally untrue. If you take a look over here, you'll notice that they have audio IC failures in addition to baseband failures. Baseband failures are failures where the phone won't be able to connect to a cellular network even though it'll connect to Wi-Fi. And a lot of you may have had this issue and noticed that Apple finally covered it under warranty after being threatened to get sued. However, they did not cover under warranty audio IC issues. Audio IC issues are when you get this little icon on your screen when you're trying to make a phone call. You'll notice that speaker is grayed out. You'll notice that recording failed when you try to make a voice memo. And down here, you'll see the problem is that these particular parts become detached from the motherboard. So this means that Apple made the exact same mistake in the iPhone 7 that they made in the iPhone 6. Not only did they make the exact same mistake, but they didn't cover this mistake in the iPhone 7. So if you had an audio IC failure, you didn't get told, oh, let us cover that under an extended warranty because you make one of the most expensive high-end phones in the market. They told you to go fuck yourself, which they didn't mention in Marquez Brownlee's propaganda piece shit-ass video that Apple then based that PDF on. Further, let's take apart that claim in that propaganda piece on two levels. Not only did they not make the newer device better, it had the exact same failure. Not only did they not cover that failure, but they're lying about the fact that the reason that their devices are not repairable is to make them more durable. There's something they could have done that make this device considerably more difficult to
I feel like the stalemate here would be to know if the device was made better or not, you'd have to look at the fail rates, not the fail types, right? Because like, for instance, let's say that they have the exact same failure, but the failure happened like 10% of the time. Wouldn't that technically be an improvement? Like,
repair that I would agree with because I think that should be done so that it's more durable. What they could have done with these chips that they knew were coming off of the boards because they're designed like shit is they could have used something called underfill under the chip. For those of you who don't really understand how soldering works and how all the stuff is put together, BGA means ball grid array. It's a way of attaching a chip to a motherboard. You used to have chips you could actually see the little legs coming out of them, but for stuff to be miniaturized, you need all the connections to be happening under the chips. You have all these little solder balls, and sometimes those solder balls will break, or when the board flexes, they will wind up moving around. So underfill is something that you put under the chip in order to keep that chip on the board and to keep it from popping off like this. Underfill would have fixed this problem. It would have made my life as a repair person considerably more difficult. However, that is a trade-off that should be made because that trade-off would mean that your phone didn't have that issue and you wouldn't have a phone that you have to throw away or pay me $100 to fix because it would have been designed properly to begin with. I don't need phones to be designed so it looks like what Gordon Gekko had in the movie Wall Street. That's not where I'm going with this. I am more than happy for devices to be more difficult to repair if that means that it's going to be something that lasts longer for the customer. But the problem here is that Apple is lying about their reasoning for this because if they cared about that, they would do these things that cost 5 extra cents to do that resulted in you getting a more repairable product that I think the entire repair industry would be okay with. While we most certainly curse when we have to deal with a chip that has underfill,
there's got to be a reason why, right?
Off that keep it from popping off like this. Flexes, they will wind up moving around. So
do they really just not do it because they're lazy and they don't want to spend 5 cents, or do you think there's is there a reason why there's got to be downsides to this process would be my guess, but I don't know.
Underfill is something that you put under the chip in order to keep that chip on the board and to keep it from popping off like this. Underfill would have fixed this problem. It would have made my life as a repair person considerably more difficult. However, that is a trade-off that should be made because that trade-off would mean that your phone didn't have that issue and you wouldn't have a phone that you have to throw away or pay me $100 to fix because it would have been designed properly to begin with. I don't need phones to be designed so it looks like what Gordon Gekko had in the movie Wall Street. That's not where I'm going with this. I am more than happy for devices to be more difficult to repair if that means that it's going to be something that lasts longer for the customer. But the problem here is that Apple is lying about their reasoning for this because if they cared about that, they would do these things that cost 5 extra cents to do that resulted in you getting a more repairable product that I think the entire repair industry would be okay with. While we most certainly curse when we have to deal with a chip that has underfill, we understand that that's part of the job. That's not the kind of thing that drives right to repair. That's not the type of thing that drives legislation.
Isn't it to force people to pay them to repair / buy a new phone? I mean, what are the likelihoods of what are the fail rates of iPhones versus any other phone?
It drove me to make thousands of videos on this channel going over this particular thing. But I think it's really important to actually document their design flaws because they claim that these products are...
Buying his live right now. I don't care. I don't care what is going to be said here. Okay, you can watch this while I do emails.
The pandemic he botched, killing millions of people. He closed businesses, he closed schools, losing their homes, people all over this country. America's flat on its back. So I told Trump that it was just one of 2 presidents in American history who left office with fewer jobs than he started. Herbert Hoover was the other one. That's why I call him Donald Herbert Hoover Trump. And then he lied about how great he was for veterans. But then I told him how he had called a veteran and had given their lives in the country in World War I and refused to go to the grave sites. He called them suckers and losers. He tried to deny it. But let me ask you, are you going to believe a 4-star Marine general, his own former Chief of Staff, John Kelly, who said he said that? Or a disgraced, defeated, and lying Donald Trump? My son was one of those people, not in World War I, but in the Vietnam. Folks, look, how about the fact that 44 How about the fact, that's okay. How about the fact that 40 out of his 44 top advisors, including the vice president, aren't supporting him this time around. The people who know him best, 40 of them said, I will not support the man I work for this time around. It tells you a lot about the person who knows him. Look, he lied about how great he was on crime. I had to remind him that he oversaw a record increase in murder rates in 2020. On my watch, violent crime has hit a 50-year low. There's more to do with a 50-year low. And then I pointed out that the only convicted criminal on the stage last night was Donald Trump. When I thought about his 34 felony convictions, his sexual assault on a woman in a public place, his being fined $400 million for business fraud, I thought to myself, Donald Trump isn't just a convicted felon. Donald Trump is a one-man crime wave.
Where was that slogan?
He's got more trials.
Jesus.
He's got more trials coming up. after that. Look, the thing that bothers me maybe most about him, he has no respect for women or the law. He doesn't. And then, his biggest lie, he lied about how he had nothing to do with the insurrection of January 6th. We all saw with our own eyes. We watched it on television. We saw thousands in his direction attack the Capitol. We saw police being attacked, the Capitol being ransacked, the mob hunting for Speaker Pelosi, gallows literally set up for Mike Pence. And then he told them as he sat in the dining room,
Not prosecuting political rivals, by the way. The difference is, first of all, New York State is a state in the United States that the president of the United States doesn't have control over. I know if you're a Trump fan, you don't really know how any part of the government works, okay? If you want an example of somebody trying to say that a political opponent should be prosecuted by their sitting DOJ, you would look at Trump when he called into, what was it, Fox and Friends or whatever, and was saying like, oh, the DOJ needs to investigate, blah, 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 blah. Personally, I haven't heard I haven't heard Biden say that. But hey, listen, if you got clips of that, I'd be curious to see it.
I went to the private dining room, one door off my Oval Office. He sat there for 3 hours watching the TV. He did not a single thing to stop it. Nothing. Nothing at all. And now he wants to pardon.
Oh, I even have this clip.
Unless Bill Barr indicts these people for crimes, the greatest political crime in the history of our country, then we're going to get little satisfaction unless I win, and we'll just have to go, because I won't forget it. But these people should be indicted. This was the greatest political crime in the history of our country, and that includes Obama.
All those convicted and But folks, for all his lies.
What did Alvin Bragg campaign on? First of all, I don't even know if that's true, actually. I wouldn't even believe that, because I need to see the things, because people, again, Trump people lie about basically everything, number one. But number two, Alvin Bragg is not Joe Biden. And Alvin Bragg is not related to Joe Biden. Alvin Bragg does not take orders from Joe Biden. So your statement has no bearing on reality whatsoever.
We learned some important truths about Donald Trump last night. We learned he's still proud.
Biden's DOJ is prosecuting him, and Bragg worked for the Biden DOJ. Give me a break. No, bye. Fuck me. I can't. I don't know if I can debate with the Trumples. I'm gonna kill myself. You should though.
Being the person who killed Roe v. Wade. We learned. We learned he's still proud about the pain and cruelties inflicted on America's women. We learned he still believes that politicians, not doctors and women, should make decisions about a woman's health. We learned that if he's elected again and the MAGA Republicans pass a national ban on abortion, he will sign it. Donald Trump says he thinks overturning Roe v. Wade was a beautiful thing. I think it was a nightmare. No, I really mean it, a nightmare. And I made it clear again last night that if you elect me and Kamala, you give us a Democratic Congress, we will make Roe v. Wade the law of the land again. He continued to lie. He said, I quadruple taxes. Where the hell has he been? Which is a simple lie. I didn't raise a tax on anyone in America that made less than $400,000 a year. And I won't in my second term either. We learned that Trump, who had the largest deficit of any president in 4 years because of a $2 trillion tax cut to the super wealthy, we learned that Trump wants to give another giant tax cut for the very wealthy and the biggest corporations. This time, $5 trillion, not a joke, $5 trillion. To pay for it, he's going to cut Medicare and Social Security.
Do you believe that our president has a reasonable level of power and position within the U.S. government, or do you think it's too strong or too weak? I think that institutionally, as it's built, I think that there's like an appropriate amount of power. I think that there's two huge problems right now, though. I think one is that the inaction of Congress, the inability, well, at least before Biden, to get like legislation passed, means that we end up looking to the president and the Supreme Court to kind of do legislation for us. And then the second issue is that I feel like executive order powers have gotten a little bit a little bit out of control, I think. But I don't know if that's an issue with the office of the presidency or with the evaluation from the Supreme Court.
Cut health care. We'll do it all with millions of working and middle-class Americans all pay for another tax cut for the very wealthy. Then, to add insult to injury, he wants to raise taxes on the average family $2,500 a year. What amounts to a new 10% sales tax on all products imported in America. That's his new plan. For food, coffee, candy bars, and so much more.
Skirted that question. What question do you think I just skirted?
Raise the tax on the average family $2,500 a year. The most dangerous thing, though, we learned that Donald Trump will not respect this year's election outcome. He's still not respecting the last time out. Well, think about it. Every court in Nuanced ruled that it was a fair election. He's still denying it, still telling lies. 3 times, Trump was asked last night by the moderators, would he respect the election results if he lost this time? 3 times he refused to answer. 3 times. Folks, Donald Trump refused to accept the results of 2020. We all saw what happened on January the 6th. The direct consequence of that. It was an international embarrassment. By the way, as I go to these international meetings, I know every major world leader. And I live it because I've been around, as you might have noticed. But they asked me, did he really mean this? Was this real? It caused a constitutional crisis and international embarrassment. Now, Trump is making it clear that if he doesn't win this time, there will be, in his words, bloodshed. No president has ever said anything like that. No president. His words, not mine. We're going to let Donald Trump attack our democracy again? I don't think so. Folks. We've come a long way. We've come a long way from the mess that Donald Trump left us. We came out of the pandemic. We're a long way from where Donald Trump telling us to inject bleach in our skin. That COVID is not that dangerous. Today we have the strongest economy in the world without exception. 15 million new jobs. 800,000 manufacturing jobs. Unemployment under 4% for a record 2 years in a row. Historic Black and Hispanic unemployment down. Historic creation of small business in Black and all communities across the nation, particularly in rural areas. Historic economic growth. Inflation has dropped from 9% to 3% and is still going down. I know we have more to do to get prices down. We have to take on corporate greed. They're making twice the profit they were before the pandemic. We got to make housing more affordable. Provide child care. Make the tax code fair. 16 Nobel winners of the Nobel Prize have looked at my economic plan this week. They've issued a report. And Trump's plan. Here's what they concluded. They said that my plan would continue to grow the economy and bring down inflation. 16 Nobel laureates. And that Trump's plan would send the nation into recession and inflation soaring through the roof. Don't take my word for it. Folks, let me close with this. I know I'm not a young man. State the obvious. Well, I know. As easy as I used to. I don't speak as smoothly as I used to. I don't debate as well as I used to. But I know what I do know.
Oh, God, fuck. I might just drop politics after this year. I don't know. I don't know if I can handle it. I'm sorry. Just reading the mind rot. Hold on. It's, okay, just as an aside, okay? It's a BS conviction, the most disgusting use and weaponization of the justice system. Just YouTube lawyers explaining the case. Any Trump fan that talks about how disgusting the conviction in New York was, and then says that the conviction for Hunter Biden over drugs and guns was like some great noble thing. This is like the ultimate demonstration of absolutely no principles to anything, not even to guns. Like one of the few things that I thought conservatives had a principled attachment to for firearms. Like, holy shit, you guys are the cancer that is rotting this country. Please, I can't say anything wrong when I get banned from YouTube.
I know how to tell the truth. I know right from wrong. And I know how to do this job. I know how to get things done. And I know, like millions of Americans know, when you get knocked down, you get back up. I know what it took to take our economy from the depths of the pandemic to where it is today, the strongest economy in the world. I know what it'll take to bring this economy to everybody. I know what it'll take to rally the world to stand up against Putin and defend freedom, not yield to him. And I know what it'll take to keep the world safe and free for the years ahead. Folks, I give you my word as a Biden, I would not be running again if I didn't believe with all my heart and soul I can do this job. Because quite frankly, the stakes are too high. The stakes are too high. Donald Trump is a genuine threat to this nation. He's a threat to our freedom. He's a threat to our democracy. He's literally a threat for everything America stands for. Look, he doesn't understand what I think all of you do. America is the finest, the most unique nation in the world. We're the only nation in the world, and I mean this sincerely, it's a fact statement, not a hyperbolic statement, it's fact. We're the only nation in the world built on an idea. All the nations built on ethnicity, geography, and other religion, but we're built on an idea that we're all created equal. Deserve to be treated equally throughout our lives. We've never fully lived up to it. I'll be damned in the year 2024, just 2 years before the 250th anniversary of our Declaration of Independence, but I'll let Donald Trump walk away from it. I give you my word. I give you my word as a Biden. We're still a nation. I believe we're still a nation that believes in honesty and decency and treating people with respect. I still believe we're a nation that gives everyone a fair shot and leaves nobody behind. We're still a nation that gives hate no safe harbor. And we're still the beacon to the world. We can never give up what makes America America. Donald Trump is motivated by revenge and retribution. Well, revenge and retribution never build a damn thing. You and I, we Americans are a nation of hope, optimism, and possibilities. That's what always built America. And that's going to continue to build America today. The choice in this election is simple. Donald Trump will destroy our democracy. I will defend it. So, folks.
Yeah, that is true. For all of us talking, I haven't heard anything for a Destiny unban. No call for Twitch to unban me.
Are you with me? Donald Trump's the first president I've heard of that stood up there running for president, having been one for one term, saying, America's a failing nation. Where the hell does he think he is? I'm serious. Failing, I don't know, a president wouldn't trade places with America in a heartbeat. He's dead wrong. America's not a losing nation. America's winning. As I stand here today, I can honestly say I've never been more optimistic about America's future in my whole career. We just have to remember who we are. We're the United States of America. There is nothing beyond our capacity. Nothing.
I live in Florida, and maybe the economy is different where you live, especially during COVID. From 2016 to 2020, I made more money than the rest of my life combined. From 2020 to 2024 was just seeing all my savings and profit go to shit. Even just sitting in the bank, I lost 20%. Holy shit, dude.
When we act together, we've got it. So may God bless you all, and may God protect our troops. Let's go get them, North Carolina. Finally did marry me.
I loved that moment. I loved it. Loved it. He said,
wait, who linked me this? Hold on. This isn't for an hour and a half. Oh, you're lucky I can't see you right now because I'd ban you.
Are made for longevity, and I'm going to argue that that's not the case. Not just with the iPhone 7, which is the example that they gave, which anybody worth their salt would have dressed them down for immediately if they weren't a propagandist that cared about keeping a good relationship with the manufacturer. They've done this with just about every device that they've come out with. I'm going to argue that Apple's design choices do not prioritize repairability. They prioritize getting hardware out there at the expense of the end user, who they will never admit when they've done something wrong to. Making design errors is forgivable.
Is there a real chance the Dems swap out Biden last minute if he gets worse? I don't know how they still trot him out there. The only way they would do that is if the difference in polling, if it were to slip enough, maybe, if it was like 40-60 or something. But other than that, I just think it's just way too risky. It's just a super risky proposition. Risky in that, like, I mean, it could work, but it also could be catastrophic, and everybody would, I don't care what Nate Silver says. Nate Silver has been ass blasted ever since he fucked up the last elections, okay? I don't know if Nate Silver's commentary is even worth anything anymore. But yeah, it would just be it would be a super risky proposition. If the polls slide enough, like more than 10 points, then maybe. But other than that, it's just
failing to correct these errors and not taking accountability and responsibility for them.
The problem is that the problem is that like everybody thinks they've seen Gavin Newsom do well in like conversations, and they're like, this has to be the guy. Like, this has to be the one that we pick. And people just see like a debate performance, like, oh my God, he's got to be like, this is a Californian governor, okay? So you're already in like a kind of a weird territory, not like unwinnable, but then you have no idea. None of the people championing Newsom have any idea what his history is for performance in California, have any idea what people like or don't like about him already, have any idea about like any of his record. Like the idea that, the idea like, oh, we just swap him as a free win is because of his debate performance is so naive. That's not to say that if they did it, he would 100% lose. I don't know if anybody could predict that at this point. I'm just saying that there's a whole set of baggage there to be explored that I'm sure op research would have a field day with getting to like bring to light, over the next like couple months. That's all I'm saying, yeah.
Is the type of behavior you expect from a $300 HP laptop or an $80 smartphone. You don't expect that from a product that's premiumly priced. So let's go over all their old failures that were never addressed in that propaganda shit video. This is a video that I did 7 years ago. It's called The Horrible Truth About Apple.
Who's your second best candidate after Biden? I don't know. It might be Newsom. I'm not sure. I would have to dig into his history more. I just know that when I lived in California, I heard a lot of people complaining about like random things. But then again, that was a lot of that was last year when I lived in Huntington Beach. So maybe that radio just hated him because I think that's a bit more conservative. But I'm not shitting on Newsom. I think Newsom's fine. I'm just saying that it's really scary to pull out like a new candidate. Not Kamala. No. God, no.
Repeated engineering failures. And I provide a citation and I demonstrate on camera every single one.
Imagine believing Biden is the best candidate for your party. Biden is only the best candidate because he was the incumbent. You guys are supporting a convicted felon who lost a civil case on rape, okay? I'm sorry, but like there's no comparison, all right? You are cheering on a person who was literally like attempting to overthrow the results of the last election. The thing is that Trump is such an unbelievably unhinged person, okay, that you can't even rattle off a tenth of the stuff that he's done without sounding deranged, because it seems unfathomable that a candidate that is so fascist could be supported by anybody in the United States of America, right? Like any one fact. Donald Trump, isn't he the guy before the Supreme Court right now who's trying to argue that presidents should have unlimited immunity from all criminal prosecution? Like, that's your candidate. So they could literally wheel Biden out in a fucking chair with an IV drip connected to him, okay? Pumping the adrenochrome. I don't even know what the fuck that is, right? And I would still say, I'll take that dude's cabinet over whatever the fuck Trump would do in office. 100%.
I'm not going to repeat every single thing in all these videos, but I will include citations down below, because if I did go through every single one of them in detail, this would be a 5-hour-long video, which I almost think is necessary to respond to this propaganda crap showing up on a 19 million subscriber channel. Let's go through every single one of them. The MacBook Pro, the A1226.
What about people who are single issue voters and don't like Biden's position on topics like Second Amendment or abortion? I think that the strongest my guess would be, I don't know if there's polling data for this. My guess would be that the strongest single item issue that people would vote on would be abortion. And I'm pretty sure they're going to be weaponized more for Biden than they would be for Trump there. Because I think there are more people that feel strongly about protecting abortion than there are people that feel strongly about getting rid of abortion. That'd be my guess, but the numbers are probably closer than you think, but...
1261 had GPU failures. These GPU failures would result in the device not being able to turn on. And it would also result in, if you were doing video editing or video capture like what I'm doing now, the device would kind of flicker, it would turn off, and it wouldn't work right. Now, if you had that problem and you took it to an Apple store and you said, I want to get this replaced under warranty, actually in the beginning they said no, they had to have a class action lawsuit against them because they really care about things being designed for longevity. But once that occurred, once they got sued, do you think that they said, okay, it looks like your device is not working? No, what they did is they came up with a requirement that your device fail a test. So you had to have a test run. This is from a colleague, I'll include a citation down below, a trusted colleague at High Tech Electronics, 47 Canal Street, big great shop. The overheating GPU more than likely cooked itself and created a short in your logic board that won't allow it to boot at all. This fact doesn't matter to Apple. If they can't do a diagnostic, then it's not a GPU failure. They'll say it's the logic board, which, by the way, is where the GPU is on that failed and integrated into it. So in their eyes, they are off the hook for the extended service repair. So if you have a device that's not turning on because the GPU died, they will say we cannot run the test on it to confirm that that's the case and say that we're not covering you under warranty. So your GPU died. Your GPU dying on that model results in you having a black screen and not booting. Because it doesn't boot, they cannot run the test. Because they cannot run the test, they can't confirm it's the GPU. Because they can't confirm it's the GPU, you get fucked.
At Destiny, asking this in good faith, is it in the self-interest of people who make over $400K per year to vote for Biden? This would be okay. This would be my thought. Okay, maybe different people think about it differently. If you're making over $400,000, like your day-to-day bank account is not really that relevant for like your standard of living. Like who cares? I feel like at that point, there are like 2, maybe 3 huge factors in your life. One is your success in whatever like career or business that you're in. 2 is going to be like the general health of your country. And then 3 is going to be the general well-being of your family. I feel like these are, past 400K, I don't know if you're voting or like just taxes anymore. I guess you could be. That seems really weird to me. That just seems, it just seems weird to me. So I would look at for leadership, like who do I feel like is going to protect those 3 areas the most? In terms of like the general economic well-being of the country, I don't think Trump even has a coherent economic plan. Even neocons did a little bit better, but Trump is basically just copying, their playbook: cut taxes for the wealthy, and then tariffs on China, and then hopefully that fixes things. And like that's it. And then in terms of like for the country, I think Donald Trump is a deeply un-American man. I think he's a deeply un-American person, and I don't think that he embodies any of the values that I would want in a president or for any citizen in my country. Somebody who doesn't respect rule of law, somebody who doesn't respect our institutions, somebody who doesn't believe in like America as like a leader for the world. And somebody who constantly, like more viciously than anybody that I remember in my lifetime, trying to pit Americans against each other. And somebody who goes along with the institutions, but somebody that would try to like steal the election. I can't believe I'm saying this. This feels so fucking stupid. But like it doesn't resemble my things at all. In terms of like safety, protection for family, it's kind of downstream from the other 2. I don't know. I guess if you care about abortion or whatever, or gun rights, these are where like the stronger opinions come in. I don't have strong opinions on either of those, but.
You care about longevity? Gargle my fucking balls. Next one on the list. Let's go over
What are some of the policies Trump has mentioned wanting to do with his upcoming term? If he wins, it causes you concern. I don't think he's not like a policy-based guy. I don't know. I've heard him say a lot of random shit. Now he's talking about like tariffs and shit. I don't know what their plan is for immigration. I don't know what their plan is for infrastructure. Like they've spoken some things, but then it changes back and forth. But the thing is that conservatives just don't live in they don't like live in a policy-based or reality-based or fact-based world anymore. So when conservatives are voting, they're voting purely off of emotion, purely off of vibes. Like I like Trump because he makes me feel happy and good, and I get my wee gets big. Like that's like the vote for Trump. Like because if you were to push any just terminal TDS, zero substance, can't even leverage critique. On every single one of those 3 points earlier, I gave you subsections for why I think that the other president is better. Do you understand that when you say TDS, that's just you having like TDSDS, right? Then instead of me having Trump derangement syndrome, you have Trump derangement syndrome, where you think that every single criticism of Trump must just be coming from a deranged place. The reason why is because you can't fathom a world where somebody might possibly disagree with you on a particular thing because you don't even know where your ideas come from. You inherit all of them from the Tim Pools, the Dave Smiths, the Donald Trumps, the whatever like dog shit slurp media you're consuming.
Every single one of these. It's probably going to turn into a 2-hour video. I don't know how to do this without it being a 2-hour video. MacBook Pro, A1226 or A1260 hinge frame problem. Didn't cover any of that in the warranty. You would screw the screen into the frame rather than screwing it into
The 2016 Tax and Jobs Act was pretty base. Trump wants it to continue. Biden said he will let it expire. Okay, if you believe that, that's fine, okay? However, you can't cry about deficit spending or you can't cry about a balanced budget because that's all that was. The tax cuts were good and that all Trump did was he gave more money to Americans by cutting tax receipts without cutting any spending in government, and he just deficit spent.
like, if you want to say that's good, I mean, like, in a way it is. I mean, yeah, anytime you pump more money into the economy, anytime you're printing more money and borrowing more heavily and not collecting any of it back in taxes, you're technically pumping the economy, yes. But I mean, like, yeah, no shit, Sherlock. Yeah, that's not an achievement, though. That's not anything. And traditionally, Republicans are always the ones that line up first to cry about deficit spending, borrowing too much, and the Federal Reserve. But when Donald Trump does it, it's like fucking amazing. Like, okay.
Into the backplate or anything like that. Again, the hinge would be screwed into the frame rather than the hinge being screwed into the backplate. Again, this is Apple. Why would we actually design things in a...
Do you see similarities between Trump and Netanyahu? A lot of people getting triggered at me. My domestic time in Israel changed my perspective on this a lot. But maybe I'll see other things. Admittedly, I haven't dug too much domestically into Netanyahu, but I'm pretty sure, I'm going to repeat this again, Netanyahu is not an extreme far-right candidate. Netanyahu is a coalition builder who is cucking out to the far-right elements in his coalition. That's my impression right now of Netanyahu. I thought he was a far-right person. I don't think he's far-right. I think he's like center-right, and he's good at keeping a coalition together in the Knesset. And that's allowed him, that's forced him to cuck out to the more radical parts of his coalition, but that's it. So, like, in terms of who is better or worse, like Donald Trump, the thing is, it's hard to even plot Donald Trump on a right-left graph, because he's gone like super populist, right, or fascist or whatever. I don't know. Does fascism go far right or far left? I guess when I think of like far right or far left, I think in terms of I'm thinking in terms of like on a liberal paradigm. I know people want to put fascism on the right and people want to put like communism or socialism on the left. But for me, these things just, if you're not liberal, you diverge completely. And I see more in common with illiberal people than I see with liberal. But like between liberal people, I guess. Somebody said, to be fair, Trump isn't extreme far right either policy-wise. Yeah, not really. Trump, I don't know. In terms of like, I don't know what the policies are. I don't think Trump is that far right when it comes to just policies, but in terms of like rhetoric and how he approaches like being a leader and what he thinks his responsibilities are and how he wants to rule, he's a fascist, right? Like in practice, or wants to be in practice, as long as the institutions aren't butting against him, right? Examples of this, okay, for the guy who says I have TDS, examples of this would be doing things like mobilizing the military to go and do border policy because he can't get the votes in Congress for it, or undermining the electoral process because he thinks that he should be allowed to infinitely stall elections if he doesn't get the outcome he wants, or trying to actually defraud electors via the electorate scheme, or vicious personal attacks against every single person that betrays him, every single former person that's worked with him, the fact that all of them hate him, the fact that he comes out against all of these people and tries to come down and crush them, they don't work with him. An example of this might be him being unwilling to work with the two runoff candidates in Georgia that are now both Democrats because he was so ass mad that Ravensburger wouldn't help him steal the election. Examples of this might be what else? I was going to say the extreme isolationist attitude that he seems to want to take. I don't know if that's really fascist, though. There's more just populist in general. A far left person would do that as well. People talk about the weaponization of the courts. Him trying to beg his DOJ to lie for him was a pretty bad one. Him going on Fox News and calling for the DOJ to indict somebody or saying somebody should be indicted while he's sitting president, that's a bad look. What else? There's one other thing I'm thinking. Him firing people when he feels like they are when they're betraying him, in regards to I don't even know if Republicans know. He said he fired Comey because didn't he say he fired Comey because Comey was too public about the Hillary email thing, which was obviously not true. Him pardoning every single former official that worked with him, all of them, even the ones that obviously and clearly should not have been pardoned. Him saying that the Constitution should be suspended while he looks for voter fraud. Him saying that Americans that burn the flag should have their citizenship revoked. All of these things. These are all fascist actions. Any two of these would be whoa, that's red flags. Trump has all of these. And these are actions. These are actions he's taken, not even desires or wants or things. Well, are they actions taken? No. Some of them are desires he's expressed, but yeah. Anyway, yeah, it's unhinged.
In a manner that makes sense, and we could design it in a manner where it's going to fail in a year or two. The unibody. They created a device that was called the unibody. It's actually two pieces glued together, and guess what the glue is? Yes, on the exhaust of the fan, because they care about fucking longevity. That's in the video that I will cite down below. This is what they call it.
Can you reflect on your debate with XQC last night? I'm having a hard time. Not viewing him is actually retarded. It's anything about children and sex and everything just sets people's minds on fire. But I don't. It's not even worth talking about any of that. I don't give a fuck.
the unibody, it is literally two cheap-ass pieces of metal that are glued together, and they are literally located right at the point of the fan exhaust, because that's exactly where I want the part that's glued together in the laptop to be, where the heat is being exhausted out of it, which is going to be a lot of it because they use thin heat sinks, because they want their devices to be sexy, because they care about...
Do you think Americans are unaware of these things? Why would such a huge chunk of Americans support him, given the facts you just listed? Well, because not every American is the same. Americans are different. Different Americans value different things. The people that support Trump based on the way that he makes them feel, which is true kind of every politician. But I'm sure there'll be some fucking anthropologist or somebody or some political scientist studies in the future. Because of... I don't know what the reason is. I don't know if it's religion or if it's whatever. Keep in mind, this is me as a left-leaning person. But like Republicans have slowly become more and more divergent from reality over time. The mainstream ones have become more and more divergent from reality over time. And I think Trump was like a big test of like, how far could you break that? Like, can you be completely like unfactual about everything? Like literally inventing the phrase, what, alternative facts? And will your party still go with you? And for the Republicans, every single person or a lot of Trump's base is willing to go with him off the ends of the earth, basically, on basically whatever he says. I didn't fuck a porn star. Like... I'm a Biden supporter, but a major part of the incumbent advantage is that he has already survived op research. This, however, presupposes that there isn't a major scandal the incumbent had in office. Biden's political decline since 2020 is the equivalent of a massive October surprise. In my opinion, I, like you, would vote for Biden with brain giant, but I think this is the issue that I don't think people understand, is that if you pick a new politician, if they have two minor scandals that people have never heard before, then that can dominate the news cycle. One thing that I don't think people realize, I've learned this in my time as being an internet person, right, is that when you drip feed drama online, it's the same thing as what did Fauci say? Not lower the curve. Fuck, what was the thing that we always said when it came to what was the thing for the curve? What did he say? Flatten the curve. When you drip feed drama, you flatten the curve, okay? Let me explain this. Let's say that there is some really dramatic, let's say that there's some dramatic event, okay? And let's say that, let's say that our bottom axis is time. Make this. How do I make this thicker? Brushes? No. Oh my God. Pencil. Can you not make the pencil thicker anymore? Natural pencil. Okay, fuck it. That's what we're doing. Okay, let's say that our bottom one is time. And let's say that our top one is public interest. Okay, we'll do I. Okay. When you drip feed drama, the left slider here. When you drip feed drama, let's say that time is passing and then, Jesus Christ. Okay, not that. Nope, not that. Time passes, and then like a little bit gets drip fed and people hear about it, and then a little bit more gets drip fed, and then let's say like, all of it comes out, and then eventually people start crying, right? This is what happens when you drip feed drama, okay? Like people will start to hear a little bit of it, they'll get like a little bit interested, and then they kind of, waxes and wanes, and then maybe like all of it comes out, it's like, oh, okay. However, when drama is leaked in one big burst, okay? So nothing comes out, and then, whoa, I think that the interest around this is way higher, and then it goes away. Even though the drip-fed drama can last longer, if you were to add up all of the different values here, right, take all the area under the curve, there's way more interest generated here when everything comes out all at once, okay? All of this to say is that if somebody like Newsom had two itty-bitty minor, like scandalous things or whatever, things that looked like scandals, the fact that we haven't heard anything about it on the national stage ever, and then it would all be coming out and we'd have like 2 or 3 months or whatever to the election, would make it like, oh shit, now everybody's talking about this thing, everybody's talking about this thing. That's the scary part, in my opinion. The Biden thing
is the Biden like senility thing has been a talking point for a long time. It's not new. Even if he does a bad performance like tonight, the question is in 1 or 2 or 3 weeks, if he does a bunch of speeches like this, will it really stick in people's minds as much? Probably not. Can you give one example of both of those in the streamer world? I'm kind of, but I think of things that aren't. No, I can't right now. I just know that it's true. You could argue the Dr. Disrespect stuff is kind of like that. That I think that it's hard to not fall into recentism bias, but if I had to trust my brain and not my emotions, like I know my emotions are my brain, I think that as much as people are talking about the Dr. Disrespect thing right now, the coverage when it initially happened was like 5 to 10 times more, would be my guess. Even though now we know a minor was involved and nobody knew anything back then. Back when Dr. Disrespect got banned, every single person was like, wait, what? Who? Dr. Disrespect got banned? Nobody knows what happened? What's going on? Everybody's posting. People making fun of Slasher. That event went on for like over a week, like weeks of like, how did the biggest streamer, what's going on? Oh my God, what's happening? Holy shit, that's fucking crazy. And then because that has been going on for like so long, and that's kind of people talking about, now like a thing has happened where it's like, there's another new thing. Oh my God, we actually found out it was like a minor. But like, I don't think people care as much as they would have if all of this would have come out at the same time, I think. Yeah. Why do you support capitalism when it's caused such a wealth disparity? Do you think you could be disconnected from the needs of the lower class? Why do I support capital? Because capitalism creates wealth. It doesn't create wealth, equity, or equality. That's what the government's job is for. Didn't Hillary lose because of the drip drama effect for the last few decades? Well, Hillary Clinton has just had... hold on. I'm just talking about how much people care about a particular thing in a particular moment in time. Not like there are tons of different things. Like you could have somebody that has no drama at all leaked about them and they still lose an election because they're just not popular, right? Fuck. Wait, hold on one second. Honey, baby. Honey, where's my chocolate? I can't believe I didn't get a hot chocolate. That's what's up. Destiny seems quite detached from the mainstream conversations about Biden around this. Okay, true. Actually, the spaces on X that are talking about this are far more representative. Yeah. Where did you live and what did you do from 2016 to 2020? How do you feel about the economy during those years? I don't even know. In Omaha and then in California? I'm a streamer. I'm rich, bro. I don't care how the economy's doing. What are you talking about? The economy doesn't affect rich people like that. We don't give a fuck.